Chapter 290. It's not that I don't want to attack. It's because my attacking fist art is still very weak. Ting Qingshan felt very helpless. Among the 5 elements of the heavens and earth, his earth element fist had reached the 2nd stage. This caused the power of Ting Qingshan's fist art, transmutation unity law, to be much more powerful. However, Ting Qingshan hadn't comprehended a single one of the 4 elements of the heavens and earth. The mountain path of the god of Heaven Mountain was rugged. Ting Qingshan and Li Jun hurried towards the goddess palace. On the life and death cliff, the experts who were affected and fainted quickly woke up. They had personally experienced the power of the descent of the thunder god and were even more amazed. They admired the demon Arata who defeated the first godly general even more. A large group of people were discussing excitedly. Some were excited and some were dissatisfied. The black-cloaked messenger of God, Wan Tianyang, felt even worse when he saw Ting Qingshan and Li Jun leaving together. Huha, you are so arrogant, but you don't have any backing. One day you will be killed. You will definitely be killed. Wan Tianyang cursed in his heart as he left silently. He was very unhappy watching the fight this time. Eldest martial brother, how did Huha defeat you with a back attack? I don't understand. The 5th godly general, Arakir, was troubled by this question and asked hastily. The other godly generals also looked at the 1st godly general. The 1st godly general, Boralimu, smiled helplessly at his junior martial brothers and said, "Even now, I still don't know how he did that move." Eldest martial brother, you didn't purposely throw the match, did you? The 8th godly general laughed. Hearing this, Boralimu glared. The 3rd godly general hastily said, "8th junior martial brother, don't talk nonsense. Is eldest martial brother that kind of person? You little brat. You said I threw the match. Why don't you try Huha's back attack?" Boralimu scolded jokingly. The 8 godly generals chatted and laughed as they walked on the mountain path. Although they lost this fight, Boralimu was in a very good mood. Just as the 8 of them were walking, suddenly, Lord 8 godly generals, 3-inch-long young men wearing gray long robes blocked the way. Inch-long hair meant that he was a disciple of Tantric Buddhism. The gold embroidery on the edge of the gray robe represented his identity as the god's personal attendant. The god of heaven wants the 8 divine generals to go to the god of heaven pagoda immediately. A youth in the lead said. The 8 godly generals looked at each other, somewhat puzzled. However, none of them dared to hesitate. They hurriedly rushed towards the god of heaven pagoda at the top of the mountain, in the guest house where Ting Qingshan lived. When Ting Qingshan and Li Jun stepped into the house, Li Jun turned to look at Ting Qingshan. Unable to suppress her excitement, she said, "Big brother Ting, that was the 1st godly general. He was strong enough to be ranked in the top 3 of the heavenly list. Big brother Ting, you are only 18 years old today, but you actually defeated him. Too amazing." Even those who did not have a good impression of Ting Qingshan would be dumbfounded if they knew about this record. Li Jun was originally inclined towards Ting Qingshan. Therefore, Ting Qingshan's success would be magnified in her heart. If he ran away, I wouldn't be able to catch up, Ting Qingshan said with a smile. Li Jun smiled and said, "The strong don't need to run away because they are weaker than you. That's why they have to run." Ting Qingshan laughed involuntarily. Ting Qingshan was in a good mood at this moment. After this battle, Ting Qingshan had a clearer understanding of his own strength. "I just had an epiphany and have yet to fully integrate the concept of the 2nd stage of the Earth Element Fist into the Transmutation Unity Law Spear art. Even so, I am already able to withstand the top 3 experts of the heavenly ranking. If I spend some time, my strength will increase further. In the entire land of the 9 prefectures, none of the experts of the heavenly ranking can make me afraid." The path he walked was the path of the branch of internal martial art. It was completely different from the path of the Taoist sect and the Buddhist sect. Although the path was difficult, It was destined that he, the founder, would become extremely powerful after the Epiphany. Even if Gu Yong or Zhao Danshan were to come, I would be able to send them flying in all directions. Ting Qingshan couldn't help but think of the legendary blind sword master of Qinghu Island. The blind sword master is one of the most powerful figures in the land of the 9 prefectures. The current me can't return to the Guiyuan sect yet. However, Ting Qingshan wasn't discouraged. The branch of internal martial art produces the internal supreme force. The way I use it now is still very shallow. Both the Buddhist sect and the Taoist sect can use Qigong. As for the internal supreme force, it can also stimulate the acupoints, bones, and muscles. Theoretically, it should be possible to create a more powerful Qigong. Ting Qingshan understood this point. The Taoist sect and the Buddhist sect both had a large number of secret manuals of Qigong. However, the Qigong of the branch of internal martial art was a complete blank. There wasn't even a secret manual of Qigong. Everything needed Ting Qingshan, the founder, to write. Besides, the earth element fist contains the Tao of earth of the 5 elements of the heavens and earth. This Tao of earth can not only be used to defend fist arts and spear art. It should also be used for Qigong. Ting Qingshan could faintly feel that he was immersed in the state of enlightenment. Ting Qingshan had a feeling. He might be able to run very far with one step. However, Ting Qingshan hadn't created this Qigong yet. I have the Tao. What I need now is enough time, so that I can continue to create. Ting Qingshan was full of ambition. If I can comprehend the 5 elements of the heavens and earth, I will become one of the most powerful experts in the land of the 9 prefectures. At that time, why would I be afraid of the blind sword master? What Ting Qingshan looked forward to the most was the day he could return to the land of the 9 prefectures and Yangzhou. Yes, I need to hurry. I'll have lunch with little June and leave the God of Heaven Mountain in the afternoon. Ting Qingshan decided. Little June. Ting Qingshan looked at Li Jun. At this moment, Li Jun was in the hallway of the 2nd floor, giving orders to the maid downstairs. Li Jun smiled and walked into the room. Big brother Ting, I'll ask someone to prepare lunch. You haven't eaten for more than a day. Little June, I plan to leave this afternoon, Ting Qingshan said directly. Li Jun froze. You're leaving this afternoon? Today? Li Jun was caught unprepared. The past few days were the happiest days of her life. She could eat and chat with Big Brother Ting, whom she missed so much. She could watch Big Brother Ting cultivate from afar. She could help Big Brother Ting do some things, such as getting a weapon. Although Li Jun knew that Ting Qingshan was going out to sea, she subconsciously didn't want to think about these things. Because when she thought about Ting Qingshan leaving, Li Jun felt very uncomfortable. He was going to leave. He was going to leave in the end. Moreover, he would be going out to sea for a long time. In the next few years, she wouldn't be able to see Ting Qingshan. Yes, this afternoon. Little June, after I leave, you will have many fellow disciples and demonic beasts to accompany you in the God of Heaven Mountain. Ting Qingshan comforted. Li Jun smiled and nodded. Yes, my fellow disciples are very good to me. Blackie, White, and the group of demonic beasts listen to me. They are all very obedient. Ting Qingshan noticed that Li Jun's mood wasn't right. Li Jun suddenly clenched her teeth. Her face was so red that it reached her ears. She lowered her voice and said, Big brother Ting, eh? Ting Qingshan looked at Li Jun and asked, What is it? Say it. Li Jun said softly, You are going out to sea. If I, before she could finish her words. Your Highness, the God of Heaven wants you to bring Lord Huha to the God of Heaven Tower immediately. A loud voice came from below. God of Heaven Tower? Ting Qingshan was slightly surprised. The God of Heaven wants to see me? Li Jun, whose face was completely red, dispelled the words she wanted to say. After a slight hesitation, she said, Big brother Ting, the God of Heaven wants to see you. You should come with me to see the God of Heaven. In the God of Heaven Mountain, you can't escape even if you want to. Ting Qingshan agreed with this point. If an emptiness realm expert wanted to deal with him, it would be as easy as lifting a finger. It shouldn't be a bad thing that the God of Heaven Mountain was looking for him. Let's go. Ting Qingshan immediately walked out of the house. Li Jun followed Ting Qingshan. On the peak of the God of Heaven Mountain stood a tall red pagoda, the God of Heaven Tower. Ting Qingshan and Li Jun entered the great hall together. With a glance, Ting Qingshan discovered that in this spacious great hall, other than the maids serving him, there were only the 8 godly generals. Brother Huha! When the 8 godly generals saw Ting Qingshan, they all stood up simultaneously. They didn't greet Li Jun. Instead, their gazes were fixed on Ting Qingshan. To the godly generals, Li Jun's status was high, but she was only at the post-liminary realm. Deep in their hearts, these godly generals valued strength more. Being able to defeat the first godly general caused these godly generals to respect the man known as Demon Arata very much. Brother Boralimu. Ting Qingshan smiled and said, "This must be the 5th godly general, Brother Arakir. As for the others, I haven't been in the God of Heaven Mountain for long, so I don't know them." The first godly general Boralimu patted Ting Qingshan's shoulder generously and said with a smile, "Let me introduce you. This is my 2nd junior martial brother, the 2nd godly general, Haragyut. This is my 3rd junior martial brother." Before he finished speaking, footsteps came from the top of the tall pagoda. "Teacher is here." Boralimu immediately stood respectfully. "The God of Heaven is here." Li Jun whispered into Ting Qingshan's ears. The 8 godly generals, Ting Qingshan and Li Jun, a total of 10 people stood respectfully in the great hall and waited. No one dared to make a sound. As the footsteps got closer, Ting Qingshan saw the elder walking down from the pagoda. The elder wore a loose white cloak and had a round face that was as tender as a baby's face. A smile appeared on the elder's face and his small eyes were always smiling. When Ting Qingshan saw the God of Heaven's face, he couldn't help but feel happy. At the same time, he had a very good impression of the God of Heaven. "What's going on?" Ting Qingshan immediately woke up. In his previous life, Ting Qingshan, who had experienced all kinds of psychedelic drug resistance training, immediately felt that something was wrong. Unbelievable. Just a smile can affect my state of mind. Ting Qingshan couldn't believe it. The God of Heaven smiled and looked at the godly generals. Finally, his gaze fell on Ting Qingshan and asked, "You are Huha?" "Yes, God of Heaven," Ting Qingshan said respectfully and politely. "You are the one who killed nearly 20,000 soldiers of the Golden Wolf Empire, the one who was rumored to be the Demon Arata?" The God of Heaven asked again. "Yes." Ting Qingshan didn't hesitate at all. "Which sect are you from? Which sect can produce a disciple like you?" The God of Heaven continued to ask. "No sect," Ting Qingshan answered. The God of Heaven smiled and nodded slightly. "Very good. The God of Heaven Mountain now has 8 godly generals. Do you agree to be the 9th godly general of the God of Heaven Mountain?" Chapter 291. The god's gentle voice reverberated in the hall, but the 8 godly generals stared at the god in astonishment. They simply couldn't believe that the god would say such a thing. The 9th immortal general? Ting Qingshan also looked at Sky God with some amazement. Sky God's small eyes were like black crystal jade, making it impossible for people to guess what he was thinking. When the God of Heaven saw Ting Qingshan hesitating, he continued, "Hua, you don't belong to any sect. Joining the God of Heaven Mountain will only bring you benefits." At this moment, Li Jun also revealed a smile. She was the goddess of the God of Heaven Mountain, and she also hoped that Ting Qingshan would be in the same sect as her. Li Jun looked at Ting Qingshan, who was beside her. "Heavenly God," Ting Qingshan said respectfully, "although I don't belong to any faction, I have a master." In his heart, Ting Qingshan didn't want to join the God of Heaven Mountain, even though he had betrayed the Guiyuan sect. However, in his heart, it was impossible for him to forget his master, Zhuge Yuanhong, Zhuge Yun, Ting Qinghu, and the others. He had already branded himself with the mark of the Guiyuan sect. Master. The kami is not surprised in the slightest, still smiling and saying, "For you to have such achievements, it would be strange if you didn't have a master. Don't worry, I'm asking you to join the God of Heaven Mountain, but I'm not asking you to be my disciple. Although the 8 godly generals of the God of Heaven Mountain are all my disciples, they are all godly generals. But if you join, I will not force you to take me as your master. I practice Tantric Buddhism, and your cultivation method is obviously different from mine. Moreover, you have also reached the Golden Dan innate realm. At this stage of cultivation, it is impossible to change. I will not allow you to change to Tantric Buddhism." The God of Heaven glanced at the first godly general, Boralimu. Boralimu had followed the God of Heaven for the longest time, so he immediately understood what the God of Heaven meant. He looked at Ting Qingshan and laughed heroically. "Brother Hua, teacher didn't ask you to be his disciple. You're only going to be a divine general. If you become a godly general, it will be very beneficial for Brother Hua when you travel the world in the future. You and I can exchange pointers frequently in the future." Haha, 9th Godly General. The 5th Godly General, Arakir, also smiled and said, "Brother Hua, if you really become the 9th Godly General, you will be the 9th Godly General. Our God of Heaven Mountain has 9 Godly Generals, and you are the strongest among them." When Boralimu heard this, he purposely forced a smile and said, "Junior Marshal brother, you are right. Brother Hua became the 9th Godly General. He is the most powerful godly general." The number of God of Heaven Mountain's godly generals was determined by the length of time they joined the God of Heaven Mountain. It had nothing to do with strength. Hua! The God of Heaven stared at Ting Qingshan. The entire hall quietened down. Whether it was the 8 great godly generals, the God of Heaven, or Li Jun, they all looked at Ting Qingshan. Everyone hoped that he would join the God of Heaven Mountain. "I've let you down, Senior Heavenly God." Ting Qingshan bowed and said sincerely, "I won't hide anything from the God of Heaven. I, Hua, will soon set sail, roam the sea for a while and cultivate well." He would never stay on the God of Heaven Mountain. "No one will stop you from going to the sea after you become a godly general," the God of Heaven said with a smile. Ting Qingshan shook his head. With a distant look in his eyes, he said, "Going to the sea to cultivate is just a process of hard training. In this life, I have been pursuing to step into the emptiness realm. When I step into the emptiness realm, I will establish my own sect and teach my disciples what I have learned. This is what I have always wanted. Therefore, it is impossible for me to join other sects." "Establish your own sect?" The 8 great godly generals were stunned. They then looked at the God of Heaven. What kind of status did the God of Heaven have? He was an emptiness realm expert. He was an invincible existence on the Great Prairie. Today, the God of Heaven invited Ting Qingshan again and again with a smile on his face. However, Ting Qingshan rejected him again and again. They were worried that their teacher, the God of Heaven, would fly into a rage out of humiliation. If he didn't use it for himself, he would become an enemy. There were many people who thought this way. "Big Brother Hua," Li Jun urged in a low voice. Ting Qingshan raised his head and looked at the God of Heaven. The smile on the God of Heaven's face seemed to have frozen. He stared at Ting Qingshan with his small eyes and seemed very calm. "Hua!" The God of Heaven's voice became deep and resonated in the great hall. "God of Heaven." Ting Qingshan's attitude was very humble. The God of Heaven said slowly, "Reach the emptiness realm? With your intelligence and talent, as long as you don't slack off, I believe that you will reach the emptiness realm one day. Since you want to establish your own sect, As the god of Heaven Mountain, I will help you. With your relationship with Lady Li Jun, you should know the power behind the god of Heaven Mountain. Ting Qingshan froze. Although Li Jun didn't say it clearly, Ting Qingshan still knew that the god of Heaven Mountain was just a branch of the powerful and terrifying dark power. My disciples and Lady Li Jun all know, the god of heaven said slowly, in the land of the 9 prefectures, there is a godly palace called the Heavenly God Palace. Aside from the sovereign of the Heavenly God Palace, the God of Heaven has the highest status. I am one of them. When Ting Qingshan heard this, his heart trembled. God of Heaven? Emptiness Realm Expert? One of them? No wonder little June told me that the power of the sect she belongs to is comparable to the Mani Temple. Ting Qingshan immediately understood that this powerful force probably had more than one Emptiness Realm Expert. Besides the God of Heaven, there are also foreign dignitaries in the Heavenly God Palace. The God of Heaven stared at Ting Qingshan and said, the foreign dignitaries of the Heavenly God Palace are second only to the God of Heaven. However, the foreign dignitaries and the Heavenly God Palace only help each other. They are not completely controlled by the Heavenly God Palace. The foreign dignitaries can be the sovereign of other sections. Because they can receive the help of the Heavenly God Palace and be independent of the Heavenly God Palace, it is very difficult to become a foreign dignitary. Currently, the Heavenly God Palace has 2 foreign dignitaries. The God of Heaven's words caused Ting Qingshan to tremble. Actually, Ting Qingshan already knew that, if there was light in the world, there would also be darkness. With the existence of the 8 supreme sects, it was not impossible for a powerful force to be hidden in the darkness. However, the strength of this force caused Ting Qingshan to be shocked. Of the 2 foreign dignitaries, one is a senior ancestor of the East Sea, and he is an Emptiness Realm expert. The other foreign dignitary is the strongest expert of many kingdoms in the Western region, and he secretly controls a few kingdoms. Although he is only in the Golden Dan innate realm. In terms of strength, he is definitely among the top 3 of the heavenly ranking. The God of Heaven did not hide anything. When Ting Qingshan heard this, he gasped. Of the 2 foreign dignitaries, one was an Emptiness Realm expert of the East Sea, and the other was the strongest expert of the Western region. Neither the East Sea nor the Western region could be considered as part of the 9 prefectures. Naturally, they were not included in the heavenly ranking. The relationship between the foreign dignitaries and the Heavenly God Palace is like an alliance. They are not superior and subordinate. They help each other. As the God of Heaven, I have the only chance to choose a foreign dignitary. The God of Heaven stared at Ting Qingshan and said, Huha, are you willing to be the foreign dignitary of the Heavenly God Palace? Ting Qingshan held his breath as he listened. The God of Heaven really thought highly of him. The Heavenly God Palace only had 2 foreign dignitaries, and every foreign dignitary was a formidable figure. The senior ancestor of the East Sea, the ruler of the Western region. And the third was Ting Qingshan? Big Brother Huha. Li Jun immediately lowered her voice and said hastily, the position of foreign dignitary is only less powerful than the God of Heaven. It's even more powerful than the core disciples and the godly generals. I can agree to this. The 8 godly generals looked at Ting Qingshan enviously. However, they were not jealous. Because Ting Qingshan's strength had convinced them, and it was obvious that Ting Qingshan was young. Although most innate experts did not look old, everyone could tell from their hair and temperament. For example, Zhao Danshan and Boralimu did not look old. However, Zhao Danshan's hair was silver, and Boralimu's sideburns were white. Secondly, these people who were close to the end of their lifespans all had an aura of lethargy. They did not have the vigor of young people. Although it was illusory, innate experts could tell. Thank you, God of Heaven, for thinking highly of me. Ting Qingshan bowed and said, as a foreign dignitary, if I were to establish my own sect or join other sects in the future, the heavenly God Palace would not stop me, right? Of course not. The God of Heaven smiled and nodded. A foreign dignitary, as the name suggests, is a guest. Ting Qingshan clearly knew how terrifying it was for such a powerful force to be hidden in the land of the 9 prefectures without letting anyone know. Befriending such a dark force would only bring benefits to future operations. Thank you, God of Heaven, for thinking highly of me. I agree to the position of foreign dignitary. Ting Qingshan nodded. The God of Heaven's smile grew brighter. The God of Heaven was an old man who had lived for over 400 years. He had built the God of Heaven mountain with his own hands. How powerful was his judgment! The God of Heaven had already judged the potential of the young man before him. The young man would become an emptiness realm expert in the future. To the heavenly God Palace, having an emptiness realm expert as a foreign dignitary would only bring benefit. Laughter filled the great hall of the God of Heaven Tower. Everyone congratulated Ting Qingshan. Honored as a foreign dignitary. From this, it could be seen how much the God of Heaven valued Ting Qingshan. Even the God of Heaven himself only had the right to choose a foreign dignitary once. Hoo-ha! The God of Heaven took out a green token from his bosom. This is the token of a foreign dignitary. It represents your identity. As the God of Heaven spoke, he threw the medallion towards Ting Qingshan. The medallion flew over lightly as if there was an invisible hand holding it. Finally, the medallion floated in front of Ting Qingshan. Ting Qingshan extended his hand and caught the token. Upon closer inspection, the foreign dignitary token was entirely green and seemed to be made of jadeite. Holding it in his hand, Ting Qingshan could faintly feel a warmth being transmitted into his body, making him feel comfortable. The material of the foreign dignitary token is a large piece of jade core nurtured from the chalcedony of a jade mountain on an island in the East Sea. This token was carved from part of the jade core. If you wear it for a long time, it can clear your meridians and nourish your spirit. The God of Heaven smiled and said, even if you have an ordinary aptitude, it won't be difficult for you to clear all the meridians if you wear it. Ting Qingshan stared at the token in his hand in astonishment. Jade Mountain? The jade core nurtured from the chalcedony? Drinking a little of the 10,000 years chalcedony can clear all the meridians in one's body. The jade core nurtured from the chalcedony has an even more amazing effect. The heavenly God Palace is indeed rich. Ting Qingshan exclaimed inwardly. Compared to the heavenly God Palace, the Gui Yuan sect that he used to stay in was 10 or even 100 times worse. Li Jun, who was at the side, winked at Ting Qingshan. Ting Qingshan smiled faintly. The foreign dignitary of the heavenly God Palace would wait for him to return from the northern sea continent. The assistance of the dark forces of the heavenly God Palace would be of great benefit to him in helping the Gui Yuan sect. Hoo-ha has already become the foreign dignitary of the heavenly God Palace. This matter is settled. Everyone, the last time I came out of my secluded cultivation, we talked about the heavenly rock island. Now it's time to take action. The God of Heaven said. Chapter 292. Heavenly Rock Island? Ting Qingshan was slightly surprised and confused. Li Jun, who was at the side, whispered, Heavenly Rock Island is a small island in the North Sea. Because there is a silver mine on the island and the heavenly dazzling silver mine, which is 100 times more precious, Snowhawk Hall and the God of Heaven Mountain excavated it together. Snowhawk Hall gets 60% of the excavated ore. The God of Heaven Mountain gets 40%. Ting Qingshan was secretly surprised. With the strength of the God of Heaven Mountain, it only occupied 40% of the total. Teacher, I have long disliked the people of Snowhawk Hall. Boralimu's tiger-like eyes were filled with anger as he said, Since the sovereign has given the order, we must teach Snowhawk Hall a lesson. We must let these arrogant people know that the God of Heaven Mountain has the final say on the Great Prairie. Eldest Marshal Brother is right. We must teach them a lesson. The third godly general's eyes were fierce as he said with hatred, "We must let them know that the islands in the North Sea are under our control. They can forget about interfering. Teacher, I will take some people to solve the problem of Heavenly Rock Island." "I will do it," even the fifth godly general Erikir hastily said. The godly generals volunteered. It was obvious that they didn't like Snow Hawk Hall. After all, only Snow Hawk Hall dared to fight against the God of Heaven Mountain on the Great Prairie. "Ha ha!" The God of Heaven revealed a bright smile and laughed loudly. "The Battle of Heavenly Rock Island is our first battle against Snow Hawk Hall. Since it is our first battle, we must win beautifully. This matter will be handed over to your eldest martial brother Boralimu. Boralimu, take 5,000 soldiers and head to Heavenly Rock Island by boat." Also, the God of Heaven looked at Ting Qingshan. Ting Qingshan looked confused. "Hua!" The God of Heaven said with a smile, "Aren't you going out to sea? Heavenly Rock Island is in the North Sea. This time, you will accompany Boralimu to Heavenly Rock Island. After this battle, you can choose a boat from Heavenly Rock Island and head out to sea." Boralimu walked to Ting Qingshan's side and said, "Brother Hua, if you depart with me, Snow Hawk Hall will definitely be finished." "Snow Hawk Hall?" Ting Qingshan's heart skipped a beat. If it weren't for the few members of the Snow Hawk Hall who were circling high in the sky and searching for him in the Great Yen Mountain, Ting Qingshan would have slipped away without a trace. After that, he hid in the black armored corps. It was someone from the Snow Hawk Hall who shouted. If not for them, Qing wouldn't have died. "All right. Boralimu, I will go with you." Ting Qingshan immediately agreed. In any case, it was along the way, and he would head to Heavenly Rock Island. Once the matter was settled, he could head north from Heavenly Rock Island. "Ha ha, great!" Boralimu laughed heartily as he patted Ting Qingshan's shoulder. Hearing Ting Qingshan's reply, the God of Heaven nodded slightly and said, "It's better to do this as soon as possible. Boralimu, go pass down the order. We will immediately depart for the North Sea in 2 hours. At the same time, order all the ships to be ready. Once the army reaches the coast, they can board the ships and set sail. Teacher, leave this matter to me." Boralimu patted his chest and said, "God of Heaven." Suddenly, a clear voice rang. In the great hall, the 8 godly generals, Ting Qingshan, and the God of Heaven all looked at the person who spoke. It was Li Jun. Li Jun said, "In the Battle of Heavenly Rock Island, many soldiers will die in the battle. I think that with the help of the 2 fierce wind divine eagles, who can breathe fire, the troops of Snow Hawk Hall will probably put down their weapons and surrender. In a group battle, the fierce wind divine eagles are more useful than the Golden Dan innate experts." Everyone nodded in agreement with her words. In a group battle, demonic beasts were indeed very useful. For example, although the Emptiness Realm experts were powerful, they had to slowly kill the elite troop. It was impossible for them to kill hundreds or thousands of people at once. However, the Flood Dragon Violet Rain, which had reached Emptiness Realm culmination, could easily kill over 10,000 soldiers by breathing cold air. The heavens prevented demonic beasts from reaching the Omnipotent Realm. However, the heavens gave demonic beasts an advantage in terms of lifespan and talent. For example, the demonic beasts Violet Rain and the Golden Dragon Turtle were both demonic beasts that had lived since the era of Emperor Yu. However, 4 omnipotent experts had been born in the land of the 9 prefectures, but the Flood Dragon Violet Rain and the Golden Dragon Turtle were still alive. The heavens were fair. If you lose something, the heavens would compensate you with something else. God of Heaven, I plan to take the 2 fierce wind divine eagles and go to Heavenly Rock Island with the first godly general and the others. Li Jun said. The God of Heaven looked at Li Jun and then at Hua. He then smiled and nodded. Since you have the intention, Then take the 2 fierce wind divine eagles and the army and depart. The god of heaven swept his gaze across the crowd and said, Boralimu, Huha, Li Jun, get ready to depart. Now disperse. With this, the god of heaven turned and left through the side door. Ting Qingshan looked at the graceful figure clothed in a white cloak beside him. He felt slightly complicated. He understood. Li Jun suddenly requested to take the fierce wind divine eagles to Heavenly Rock Island because she wanted to stay with him for a few more days. This little girl. Ting Qingshan sighed. Big brother Huha. Li Jun looked at Ting Qingshan and smiled. Let's get ready. We will depart in 2 hours. Seeing Li Jun's happy expression, Ting Qingshan couldn't say much and could only nod his head. On the prairie. The mighty army was like a flood of iron and steel, galloping on the prairie and advancing northward at a rapid speed. There were 2 divine condors circling above the army. Although the war horses were fast, they were much slower than the godly eagles. On the back of the godly eagles, Ting Qingshan was carrying a bag and holding the dark blaze rod as he sat on the back of the godly eagle. Beside him, Li Jun, who was wearing a light green battle armor, was sitting on the back of the white female godly eagle. Little Jun, Qing. Ting Qingshan looked at Li Jun, who had changed into a new set of battle armor. He couldn't help but think of Qing. Back then, Qing was also wearing a light green battle armor. Moreover, these 2 ladies both had feelings for him. Qing was as pure as a snow lotus on the heavenly mountain. Little Jun had experienced so many hardships, so she was wiser and more decisive than Qing. During his time on the God of Heaven mountain, Ting Qingshan could feel Li Jun's feelings for him. However, because of this, Ting Qingshan didn't want to get too involved. If little Jun wants to go to Heavenly Rock Island with me, then let's go together. At least there won't be any danger there. Moreover, after Heavenly Rock Island, I will go to the sea alone. I'm afraid that it will be a long time before we meet again. Ting Qingshan actually felt that he owed these ladies a lot. Big brother Ting, Li Jun asked with a smile, you want to go to the sea and cultivate for several years, or even longer. However, won't you feel uncomfortable staying in the vast sea for so long? Of course, it would be uncomfortable to drift in the sea for so long. However, Ting Qingshan's real purpose wasn't to drift in the sea, but to go to the end of the North Sea, to the faraway North Sea continent. It's just for cultivation. Ting Qingshan didn't say anything else. If Li Jun smiled as she looked at Ting Qingshan and said, Big brother Ting, if you drift in the sea, would it be better if someone went with you? Ting Qingshan was shocked. Could it be that Li Jun wanted to go with him? That wouldn't do. He had to stop this idea of hers. I am cultivating. Why would I need someone to accompany me? Ting Qingshan frowned and said discontentedly, Moreover, I will occasionally dive into the depths of the sea to cultivate. It would be troublesome to have an extra burden. Li Jun nodded lightly and didn't say anything else. Voila, at the mouth of the North Sea, waves of seawater slapped against the shore. Numerous pitch-black ships were anchored at the mouth of the sea. A great number of soldiers rapidly boarded the ships like ants. Ting Qingshan and Boralimu stood on the shore and watched the soldiers board the ships. 5,000 soldiers and 10 ships. Ting Qingshan looked at the ships and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. At the side, Boralimu smiled and said, This ship is the battleship class of the God of Heaven Mountain. It is over 40 zhang long and 16 zhang wide. There are 26 cabins inside, and the entire ship is built with ironwood. This ironwood is harder than steel, but it is much lighter. It is most suitable for building ships. This is a real battleship. Ting Qingshan exclaimed in his heart. 10 battleships, if converted, would be over 100 meters long and 40 meters wide. Such a huge ship was very rare in the history of China in Ting Qingshan's previous life. It seemed like only the legendary treasure ship that Zheng He sailed to the Western Ocean could compare to it. However, in the land of the 9 prefectures the materials were much better. When I was in Yangzhou, Li Jun, who was at the side, also exclaimed in surprise, "The merchant ships in the Yuyang Grand Canal are much smaller than these ships. These ships look like small islands." The 100-meter-long ships were indeed very shocking in front of them. "This is an ocean ship. Those are small boats in the rivers. How can they compare? Let's board the ship." Borilimu smiled and said. Immediately, Ting Qingshan, Li Jun, Borilimu, and the 2 fierce wind-divine eagles boarded a battleship. As the voice echoed in the sky, the sails of the 10 battleships rose. Many soldiers obeyed the command and rowed the thick and long oars. The 10 battleships then set sail. The 5,000 soldiers selected this time obviously knew this. In the boundless North Sea, it was already the evening of the 2nd day since the battleships set sail. Voila! The seawater was dark and gloomy, and there was a fishy smell. Ting Qingshan stood on the deck and looked ahead. Borilimu and Li Jun were also at the side. Li Jun sighed softly. "The sea is truly boundless. Does anyone know if the North Sea has an end?" "The end of the North Sea?" Borilimu, who was at the side, shook his head and smiled. "I have never heard of an end to the North Sea. There were also many merchants and warriors who took the risk. However, many people who went deep into the North Sea died and didn't come back alive. Even if they came back alive, it was still a boundless sea after traveling 10 or 20,000 li." Ting Qingshan opened his mouth and asked, "How far are we from Heavenly Rock Island?" "It's summer now and we have the wind with us. The speed of the ship is very fast. With this speed, we will arrive at Heavenly Rock Island before dawn tomorrow," Borilimu said. Looking at the gloomy seawater ahead, Ting Qingshan suddenly realized that there was a completely greenish-gray monster in the distance. Ting Qingshan could barely see through the seawater with his dark vision. "This is a shark?" This monster indeed looked like a shark, but it was much longer. Voila! The monster swam towards the battleship from afar. Its towering dorsal fin broke through the water. How powerful was Borilimu? Of course, he also noticed it and his expression changed. "Oh no, it's a thunder whale! Northern Sea thunder whale!" Chapter 293. Northern Sea thunder whale? Ting Qingshan increasingly felt that the book he had read about demon beasts was lacking in information. The enormous North Sea thunder whale broke through the water like a battleship, dashing towards the battleship on the left of Ting Qingshan's group. "How can I be so unlucky?" Borilimu widened his eyes as he stretched out his hand and grabbed the long spear in the hands of a soldier beside him. "Humph!" Borilimu snorted and threw his long spear. Shwa! Like a bolt of lightning, it shot towards the North Sea thunder whale Chi-Chi. A large amount of green light from the Northern Sea thunder whale's body flowed to its dorsal fin and finally gathered at the tip of its dorsal fin. With a poo sound, a thick and long bolt of lightning quickly shot towards the incoming spear. Pung! The long spear was struck by the lightning and exploded. The Northern Sea thunder whale, which was originally sprinting at top speed in the sea, suddenly stopped. Its black eyes looked towards Borilimu, who was on the ship. It opened its bloody mouth, revealing a few rows of sharp teeth, and let out a deep roar. "Evil creature, are you courting death?" Borilimu roared angrily. Roar! A roar suddenly came from the ship. Ting Qingshan turned his head and saw Li Jun emitting roars at the Northern Sea thunder whale. However, her roars were much softer. Roar! The Northern Sea thunder whale stared at Li Jun and happily responded a few times. Immediately after, it flipped over and slapped the water with its tail fin, scuttling to the bottom of the sea and disappearing. Only the surging seawater was left. Seeing the Northern Sea thunder whale leave, the soldiers on the deck heaved a sigh of relief. The inborn experts wouldn't care if they had to fight with the Northern Sea thunder whale. However, once the armored soldiers fell into the water, they would be in trouble. On the deck, Borilimu laughed and said, "This time, it is all thanks to the goddess. Even without me, Big Brother Boralimu can easily deal with this thunder whale. Li Jun said modestly. Boralimu shook his head and hastily said, "It's not that simple." Although the thunder whale was not strong and was only comparable to an emptiness Dan innate expert, its strength was still comparable to a Shudan innate expert. If a true Dan innate expert fought to the death, he would be able to kill it. However, in the sea, its speed is much faster than humans. It was impossible to catch up to it, but if it wanted to launch a sneak attack, all it had to do was slam into it from the bottom of the water, and it would be able to cause the ship to crack and sink. He destroyed a warship so easily. To deal with the Northern Sea thunder whale, it's best to scare it. Boralimu smiled and said, "Just like what I did just now, to let it know my strength." However, even if it knew, it would not be willing to let the lightning strike it twice before it ran away. If the lightning strikes it twice, I'm afraid some of us will die. Even a ship was about to sink. "Goddess, do you think I should thank you?" The Northern Sea thunder whale was a demonic beast with human intelligence. Seeing Boralimu's throw, one could guess how powerful Boralimu was. "Old brother Boralimu, we have only been out at sea for a day, and we have already encountered a Northern Sea thunder whale. Looks like there are quite a few demon beasts in the North Sea." Ting Qingshan suddenly realized that his journey to the sea in the future might not be as simple as Emperor Yu had said. Boralimu smiled and said, "Northern Sea thunder whales would occasionally appear in the sea around Heavenly Rock Island. However, we would only encounter one occasionally if we were unlucky. Normally, we wouldn't be able to encounter one. Of course, this is the coastal sea." Boralimu continued, "If we sail towards the north, it would be strange if there weren't any powerful demonic beasts in the boundless North Sea." Ting Qingshan listened and nodded. Demonic beasts were born because the spiritual qi was abundant. There were so many demonic beasts in the land of the 9 prefectures. The area of the North Sea was much larger than the land of the 9 prefectures. Even though the density of demonic beasts was much lower, the total number of demonic beasts was probably even more shocking. Emperor Yu, oh Emperor Yu! He probably hoped that the person who obtained the splitting mountain axe would go to the Northern Sea continent. Therefore, he completely ignored the dangers of going to the sea. Ting Qingshan shook his head. The 10 warships rode the wind and the waves as they sped towards Heavenly Rock Island. Along the way, the 10 warships used some islands as reference points and occasionally adjusted the direction of the sails to correct the direction of the ship. Besides the Northern Sea thunder whale that appeared earlier, no other dangers appeared on the rest of the journey. At dawn, the surface of the sea was gray. The 10 warships had already arrived at the southern shore of Heavenly Rock Island. "Honorable Godly General, the soldiers will be able to disembark in the time it takes to brew a cup of tea." Beside Boralimu, a black-bearded man wearing a helmet spoke. Soon, the warships stopped and were connected to the shore using thick wooden plank. The soldiers began to disembark. "General Liu." Ting Qingshan looked at the black-bearded man beside him. "My lord." The general greeted respectfully. Ting Qingshan nodded and said, "This Heavenly Rock Island has a circumference of 100 li. There should be some small boats, right?" The black-bearded man nodded and said, "This is an island. Of course there will be many ships." Ting Qingshan instructed, "After we disembark, make the necessary arrangements. Prepare a sturdy small boat. I plan to use it when I go to the sea alone. Remember, the material of the small boat must be good, and the sails must be strong enough. Don't let it collide with the reef and shatter." "Brother Huha, why are you in such a hurry?" Boralimu was slightly surprised. "The battle on Heavenly Rock Island will be very simple. After the battle, I will prepare to depart. Now I just need to make the necessary arrangements," Ting Qingshan said with a faint smile. Li Jun, who was at the side, looked at Ting Qingshan silently. Boralimu said to the black-bearded man, "Did you hear that? Find the sturdiest ship. It doesn't have to be too big, but it has to be sturdy. The sails. It's best to use natural silk to weave and be strong enough. Don't worry, my lord, the black-bearded man hastily said, since it's a single ship, even if I send someone to build a new one, it won't take more than a few days. Plus, there are many ships on the island. Also, the entire body of the ship is made of steel. As long as it doesn't carry a lot of cargo, it can be used. Ting Qingshan listened and nodded. At this moment, clack, 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 a silhouette moved along the wooden planks and quickly rushed onto the ship. This person was dressed in a gray robe and wore a tattered felt hat on his head. He was a skinny man with dark skin and a pair of spirited eyes. Lord Godly General, the skinny man said respectfully. Borelimu smiled at Ting Qingshan and said, This is the leader of our God of Heaven Mountain's intelligence station on Heavenly Rock Island, Wuerhan. Wuerhan, tell me the current situation of the troops of Snow Hawk Hall on the island. The skinny man said respectfully, Snow Hawk Hall currently has 3,000 elite soldiers and 10,000 ordinary soldiers on the island. Miners are not included. The current elder of Snow Hawk Hall stationed on the island is called Wan Tuyo. He's a Golden Dan innate expert. Wan Tuyo? Ting Qingshan frowned and said, Yes, Wan Tuyo. The skinny man hastily answered. What's wrong, brother Huha? Borelimu looked at Ting Qingshan. Ting Qingshan shook his head and said, Nothing. Li Jun, who was at the side, glanced at Ting Qingshan. Others might not know, but she knew clearly. Back in the Great Yen Mountain, the leader of the troops sent by Snow Hawk Hall, Elder Wan, was called Wan Tuyo. Could it be such a coincidence that he's here? Ting Qingshan thought to himself. Come, let's go down. Borelimu said. Li Jun smiled and said, Big brother Hua, you and I will ride on black and white. We can easily see what's happening on the ground from high up in the sky. Borelimu stopped and smiled. You guys are really comfortable. Yes, I'll go down first. Borelimu led the troops down while Ting Qingshan and Li Jun sat on the back of the fierce wind godly eagles. The black and white fierce wind godly eagles, who had been on the ship for 2 days, didn't cry. They directly soared into the sky and reached the sky above Heavenly Rock Island. On the second floor of an exquisite building on Heavenly Rock Island, phew, the cold wind blew outside. On the bed in the room, a cold-looking elder with a hooked nose was sitting on the bed with his upper body naked. He leaned against the bed frame and covered himself with a warm blanket. Beside him, a beautiful young married woman with snow-white skin slept. The young married woman opened her sleepy eyes and looked around. She chuckled and reached out her hand to touch the chest of the cold-looking elder. Sleep a little longer. The elder yelled in a low voice. Oh! The young married woman was very obedient and shrunk under the blanket. The hook-nosed old man grabbed the scimitar beside the bed. As a Golden Dan innate expert, although he didn't need to abstain from lust, he definitely had a sincere heart towards the way of martial arts since he was able to reach the Golden Dan innate realm. Zhuge Yuanhong's sword. The hooked-nose elder recalled the scene in the Great Yen Mountain. That silky, misty, and dreamlike sword actually cut off one of Zhao Danshan's arms, forced Gu Yong back, and severely injured Wan Tuyo. If I was alone, I'm afraid I would already be dead. The hook-nosed old man touched the hideous scar on his chest. This was left behind by Zhuge Yuanhong's sword. The new heavenly ranking has already ranked Zhuge Yuanhong as the 3rd in the heavenly ranking. Wan Tuyo, will I ever be able to step into the emptiness realm in this lifetime? Wan Tuyo waved the scimitar in his hand lightly. The surface of the scimitar reflected a chilling blade light. Phew! The scimitar in Wan Tuyo's hand seemed to have a life of its own as it danced in the air. However, Wan Tuyo merely squinted his eyes and his expression remained unchanged. Wan Tuyo's ears twitched. Phew! Wan Tuyo lifted the blanket and quickly got out of bed. He then grabbed his clothes and put them on. The charming young married woman on the bed wrapped herself tightly in the blanket and muttered, "The sun hasn't risen yet. Elder, elder!" Shouts came from outside. Creak. Juan Tuyo opened the door and leaped down from the second floor. He looked at the frightened people downstairs and shouted with a frown, "What's going on in the south? Why do I hear chaotic noises?" Snowhawk Hall had controlled the islands of the North Sea for over 1,000 years. Even when the god of Heaven Mountain was established, it had never directly confronted Snowhawk Hall. Because it had been too long, the people of Snowhawk Hall never thought that the god of Heaven Mountain would dare to attack them. This was also why did Snowhawk Hall, who was far away in the 9 prefectures, dare to take 60% of the shares and only give 40% to the god of Heaven Mountain. It was because they were used to being superior. Even though they knew that the god of Heaven Mountain was very powerful, even though they knew that the god of Heaven Mountain had an emptiness realm expert. "It's the god of Heaven Mountain," one of the men wearing black armor said in panic. "Elder, a large number of troops from the god of Heaven Mountain are coming." "What?" Juan Tuyo's facial expression changed. "How is this possible? 10 warships arrived on the island earlier. However, we were only suspicious at that time. Soon, however, they took action. Elder, we only have 3,000 elite soldiers. How can we defend against them?" Another bald man with braids said anxiously. Juan Tuyo's facial expression changed as he said, "The god of Heaven Mountain is really audacious." Chapter 294. On Heavenly Rock Island, the naval reinforcements of the god of Heaven Mountain met up with the original garrison troops. They split into teams and advanced continuously. Honorable Godly General, Juan Tuyo is at the half-lunar gorge. Boralimu strode forward with big step. Beside him, the intelligence chief named Wuerhan kept explaining to Boralimu. On both sides of Boralimu and behind him, there were a large number of elite soldiers. Dozens of squads were like sharp arrows, advancing continuously. The team that Boralimu was in was naturally the core team. They advanced rapidly towards the half-lunar gorge. "What are you doing?" A guard of Snowhawk Hall raised the long spear in his hand. "Still want to resist?" A personal guard beside Boralimu laughed hideously. He moved and pounced towards the guard. With a flash of his saber, the head of the guard of Snowhawk Hall was sent flying. One was a personal guard of the elite team, while the other was an ordinary guard. The difference in strength was too great. Tsk tisk. This personal guard licked the blood on his saber and laughed sinisterly. He looked at the other guards who gathered together in fear and said in a deep voice, "Kill all those who resist. Those who surrender will not be killed." When the ordinary guards saw this extremely ferocious army, they were so frightened that they immediately put down their weapons. Heavens! Heavenly Rock Island hadn't had a battle for many years. These guards were only there to supervise and beat up the miners. They were ruthless. However, to let them fight against a powerful elite army was equivalent to sending them to their deaths. Da, da, da. With swift footsteps, the orderly army quickly passed by this mining spot. These ordinary guards were nothing in the eyes of the elite soldiers of the god of Heaven Mountain. Boralimu advanced for a while and advanced with irresistible force. It had been 1 hour since they entered Heavenly Rock Island. "Honorable Godly General, we have conquered the eastern mine." A loud roar came from afar. When Boralimu heard this, a smile appeared on his face. Wuerhan, who was beside him, laughed and said, "Honorable Godly General, we have conquered the southern and eastern mines. With this speed, we will be able to eliminate the enemies within 2 hours." Suddenly, "Kill! Kill!" Suddenly, a series of shouts rose from the distance. The shouts sounded like the howls of a pack of mad wolves. The shouts were mixed with the puffing sounds of blood splashing and the sounds of bones breaking. "Lord God General, it's half-lunar gorge," Wuerhan said in shock. A cold smile appeared on Boralimu's face as he said, Looks like the people of Snow Hawk Hall aren't willing to admit defeat. That's right. They are from the 8 supreme sects of the 9 prefectures. How amazing is he? How can he be willing to bow down to us so easily? Pass on the order, kill with all your might. All teams from the God of Heaven Mountain, head to the Half-Moon Gorge. Attack. A thunderous roar resounded through the sky. Roar, kill those bastards. One by one, the teams let out howls and quickly moved towards the Half-Moon Gorge. Ha ha! Boralimu grabbed his divine pestle and immediately sped up. He transformed into an afterimage as he dashed towards the half-lunar gorge. Bastards of Snow Hawk Hall, I'm coming. Wash your necks and let me slaughter you. Half-Moon Gorge. In the past, this was the place where the higher-ups of Snow Hawk Hall rested when they were stationed here. The exquisite pavilions were built very beautifully. The winding river flowed and the scenery was very moving. However, today, the pavilions collapsed one by one and the walls were covered with dark red bloodstains that had yet to dry up. On the ground, minced meat, broken bones, and shattered armors could be seen everywhere. The originally clear river was also completely dyed red. F***ck. Die. A bald, brawny man roared ferociously as he fiercely swung the machete in his hand towards a soldier in front of him. Poochie! The saber directly penetrated the original wound on the armor and cut deeper. Ha! The helmeted soldier let out a deep roar. Before he died, he wanted to attack his opponent. However, the bald, brawny man fiercely kicked the soldier's abdomen. Bang! The soldier was kicked away and fell to the ground. Fresh blood and shattered internal organs flowed out from the wound on his body. However, at this moment, phew! A machete fiercely struck the bald, brawny man's head. Pooh! His head was split open. After a bearded soldier wearing a helmet hacked the bald, brawny man to death, he roared and charged towards the others. This was a battlefield, not one-on-one. This was only the scene on the half-lunar gorge. Due to the geographical advantage and the leadership of the Golden Dan innate elder Wantuyo, the 3,000 elite soldiers of Snow Hawk Hall were able to resist the attack of the army of the God of Heaven Mountain. Phew! The first godly General Boralimu arrived at the half-lunar gorge. When he saw the scene before him, his facial expression changed slightly. Honorable godly General. An officer controlling the battle from behind saw Boralimu and hastily ran over. He said anxiously, "We have gathered 4,000 soldiers here, and Snow Hawk Hall has 3,000. In addition, they have occupied some important points in the beginning. Most importantly, that Elder Wantuyo who is stationed on the island is too ruthless. In the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, according to my observation, we have lost around 200 people." Boralimu held a godly pestle and strode forward. At the same time, he raised his head and roared, "Brother Huha, where's the godly eagle? Why aren't you coming?" No matter how powerful the Golden Dan innate experts were, their true origin was limited. In group battles, they weren't as powerful as demonic beasts. "Brother Boralimu, don't worry." A hearty laughter came from high up in the sky. Screech, screech, 2 sharp and sonorous screeches pierced through the sky. 2 enormous godly eagles suddenly swooped down from the sky. At the critical point of the checkpoint, Wantuyo, who was covered in blood, raised his head and his facial expression changed drastically. Fierce wind godly eagles. Are they fierce wind godly eagles of the Golden Dan innate realm? And there are 2 of them? Wantuyo instantly felt despair as he thought to himself, "The voice just now said Boralimu? The first godly General Boralimu?" Wantuyo was shocked and angry. Phew! Phew! The 2 fierce wind celestial eagles swooped down. Then, they directly spat out flames at the soldiers of Snow Hawk Hall who were occupying the important checkpoint. Streams of white flames swept over. Ah! Screams rang out. Even some heavy armors were burnt to a crisp. Many stones were burnt and cracked. With just a few streaks of flames, more than 100 elite soldiers were killed. If these heavily armored soldiers were to fight head-on, it would be difficult for them to die unless they lost their helmets or were severely injured. However, under the flames they would definitely die. Sitting on the back of the black fierce-winged godly eagle, Ting Qingshan sighed as he looked at the soldiers of Snow Hawk Hall who were on the verge of collapsing as they were burned by the flames. Little June, can these fierce-winged godly eagles control the power of the flames? Ting Qingshan asked. In the past, the red-scaled beast of the emptiness Dan innate realm could spit out such power. Li Jun nodded and said, "Of course. The fierce-winged godly eagle has the strongest origin flame, which is black in color. Even the fierce-winged godly eagle can only spit out a dozen or so black flames. As for this kind of white flame, the fierce-winged godly eagle can spit out dozens of times without any problems." Ting Qingshan nodded and lowered his head to look at the half-lunar gorge below. Boralimu! An angry roar sounded. Why does the god of Heaven Mountain want to kill the men of Snow Hawk Hall? Could it be that the god of Heaven Mountain wants to provoke a war between us? Haha, Wan Tuyo, the people I killed are your men. So what if I provoke a war? Do you think that the god of Heaven Mountain is afraid of your Snow Hawk Hall? Boralimu's arrogant laughter reverberated in the sky above the half-lunar gorge. Ting Qingshan's gaze instantly locked onto the blood-stained elder with an aquiline nose. It's him. Scenes appeared in Ting Qingshan's mind. It was this Elder One of Snow Hawk Hall who was searching for him in the sky. It was also this Elder One who teamed up with Zhao Danshan, Gu Yong, and the others to kill him. However, they were blocked by his teacher, Zhuge Yuanhong, and were severely injured by Zhuge Yuanhong. Let's settle this once. Ting Qingshan's gaze turned serious. With the dark blaze rod in his hand, he leaped down from the eagle's back. Whoosh! Like a meteorite crashing down rapidly, Ting Qingshan landed and stepped on the chest of a soldier of Snow Hawk Hall, pushing him into the stone pit. The heavy armor was dented and fresh blood seeped out from the heavy armor. Older brother Boralimu! Ting Qingshan roared, "Leave this Wan Tuyo to me." "Haha, brother Huha, you want to teach him a lesson? Forget it, I'll leave this Wan Tuyo to you." Boralimu laughed from afar. At this moment, Ting Qingshan was in the camp of Snow Hawk Hall and was surrounded by soldiers of Snow Hawk Hall. "You want to kill me? Who do you think you are?" Wan Tuyo laughed wildly. Although he was afraid of Boralimu, he was still confident against an unknown Huha. After all, he didn't think it would be easy to find a Golden Dan innate expert who was stronger than him. "Wan Tuyo." Ting Qingshan raised the dark blaze rod and pointed at Wan Tuyo. "Next year, today will be your death anniversary. Kill him." Wan Tuyo shouted angrily. "How arrogant!" The surrounding soldiers of Snow Hawk Hall howled as they charged towards Ting Qingshan. Even an innate expert would die if he was surrounded by a large number of heavily armored soldiers. Ting Qingshan held the dark blaze rod and waved it. Bang! Fresh blood splattered as a dozen soldiers were sent flying. Phew! Ting Qingshan waved again and another group of soldiers were sent flying. They were either dead or crippled. He waved to the left and then to the right. Ting Qingshan seemed to be sweeping the floor as he strode towards Wan Tuyo like a prehistoric demon god. These soldiers were like ants to him. Bang! Bang! The sounds of the rod being waved and the miserable screams caused the soldiers of Snow Hawk Hall, who had been slaughtered by the flames of the fierce wind divine eagle, to finally collapse. All the soldiers immediately moved far away from this demon god. Ting Qingshan strode towards Wan Tuyo, and the so-called elite soldiers couldn't stop him at all. When did the god of Heaven Mountain have such a powerful expert? Could he be the demon Arata who slaughtered 20,000 soldiers of the Golden Wolf Empire? No, the demon Arata isn't a member of the god of Heaven Mountain. The god of Heaven Mountain only has 8 godly generals. Seeing Ting Qingshan approaching rapidly, Wan Tuyo's facial expression changed slightly. He pointed at Ting Qingshan and shouted, "Who are you?" Ting Qingshan's dark blaze rod was stained with blood as he grinned at Wan Tuyo and said, "The person who wants your life." Chapter 295. There are many people who want to kill me. Wan Tuyo's eyes flashed with coldness as he sneered. However, I, Wan Tuyo, am still alive after so many years? Moreover, I am still alive and well. You are called Huha? It seems that there will be another life under my saber. On Heavenly Rock Island, he couldn't escape even if he wanted to. He could only fight. After thinking it through, Wan Tuyo didn't care about anything else. In his eyes there was only one opponent, Ting Qingshan. "How dare you!" Ting Qingshan grinned and stomped on the ground, dashing towards Wan Tuyo who was at the checkpoint. The dark blaze rod in his hand transformed into a black flowing light and pierced towards Wan Tuyo's chest. Wan Tuyo moved nimbly and stared at Ting Qingshan like an eagle. The scimitar in his hand easily blocked this rod strike. Phew! Phew! With a few flashes, the two arrived at the top of the mountain. The two experts had the same idea. They wanted to find a quiet place and fight to their heart's content. "Huha, watch my air-splitting eagle saber." Wan Tuyo laughed insolently as he dodged nimbly and swiftly. The curved blade in his hand was like the sharp claws of an eagle as it pounced towards Ting Qingshan again and again. Every time it pounced, it would cause a mountain-shattering and earth-shattering explosion. The shockwaves caused by the explosions even spread in all directions. Sand and pebbles flew everywhere, trees were broken, and some large rocks rolled down and smashed onto the soldiers who were fighting below. Boralimu, who was supervising the battle below, raised his head and saw that the two were equally matched. This caused Boralimu to frown as he thought to himself, "What is Brother Huha doing? Putting everything else aside, how can that Wan Tuyo easily block the power of his rod?" In the past, Boralimu was sent flying by Ting Qingshan time and time again. Boralimu was very clear about Ting Qingshan's terrifying offensive power. Phew! Wan Tuyo moved like a ghost and his saber art was swift and fierce. He performed his strongest technique, the air-splitting eagle saber, one move after another and the power grew stronger. Wan Tuyo couldn't help but let out a long howl as he performed the technique to his heart's content. Many soldiers of Snow Hawk Hall who were guarding the checkpoint could not help but cheer when they saw this. "Brother Huha, why are you playing with him? Why aren't you killing him?" Boralimu roared from below. "Play." Wan Tuyo was startled. Ting Qingshan used pure physical strength to execute the Transmutation Unity Law staff technique to defend against Wan Tuyo's attack. When Ting Qingshan heard the shouts from below, he laughed lightly. "Wan Tuyo, your saber art is really very ordinary. No wonder he couldn't enter the top 10 of the heavenly ranking." Suddenly, the staff technique, which was already extremely powerful, suddenly increased in power. Clang! Wan Tuyo only felt a terrifying force being transmitted over from the collision. "Who?" The scimitar in his hand was sent flying, and the web between his thumb and forefinger of his right hand was split open, dripping with blood. Previously, Ting Qingshan had only used his physical strength, which was close to 800,000 jin of strength. Wan Tuyo naturally felt carefree when he fought. However, once Ting Qingshan used the internal supreme force, his explosive strength immediately increased by 400,000 jin, reaching a terrifying 1,200,000 jin. One must know that in a fight between experts, if one side's strength increased by 5%, it would be the last straw that broke the camel's back. However, Ting Qingshan's attack suddenly increased by 50%. Wan Tuyo was not Boralimu. Plus, he was caught off guard, and the scimitar in his hand was sent flying. No, Wan Tuyo's facial expression changed drastically. Humph! As his strength increased and sent Wan Tuyo's weapon flying, Ting Qingshan turned and thrust the dark blaze rod in his hand. Wan Tuyo wanted to escape, but it was too late. How could the speed of a human body be faster than the speed of a weapon? Pooh! The dark blaze rod directly pierced into Wan Tuyo's abdomen, where his dantian was located. No, Wan Tuyo let out a blood-curdling screech, but his innate true origin was easily penetrated by the head of the dark blaze rod. Poochie! The head of the rod pierced through his abdomen, and fresh blood flowed out. Since the dark blaze rod pierced through his dantian was obviously crippled. All of Wan Tuyo's cultivation was lost. All of Wan Tuyo's courage and insanity instantly disappeared without a trace. Without strength, he didn't even have the ability to retaliate. Feeling a pain in his throat, Wan Tuyo looked at the person in front of him in shock and anger. Ting Qingshan clutched Wan Tuyo's throat and pulled him in front of him. He said softly, "Wan Tuyo, do you realize that I look like someone you know?" It was no wonder that Wan Tuyo didn't recognize Ting Qingshan. This was because when he was at the Great Yen Mountain, the Ting Qingshan that he saw was wearing makeup. Wan Tuyo's facial expression changed drastically. "You heard it?" Ting Qingshan revealed a smile. At this moment, Ting Qingshan's voice had already changed to the voice he used when he was disguised as Qin Lang at the Great Yen Mountain. "No, that's impossible." Wan Tuyo widened his eyes in shock. He couldn't believe that the Ting Qingshan, who could only hide behind Zhuge Yuan Hong and flee all over the world, could actually kill him face to face in just half a year. The Golden Dan innate expert. Ting Qingshan cultivated the branch of internal martial art. Actually, he couldn't be judged by the realm of Taoism. However, it could be said that, in terms of strength, the current Ting Qingshan was indeed at the level of the Golden Dan innate expert. Ting Qingshan was only 18 years old. An 18-year-old Golden Dan innate expert? Wan Tuyo's heart was filled with fear. An 18-year-old Golden Dan innate expert was unprecedented in the history of the land of the 9 prefectures. He will definitely reach the emptiness realm in the future. If he wants to retaliate against my Snow Hawk Hall. The more Wan Tuyo thought, the more afraid he became. "You are Ting." Wan Tuyo was just about to say it. Ting Qingshan tightened his grip on Wan Tuyo's throat, causing Wan Tuyo's face to immediately turn red. Ting Qingshan chuckled and said, "It's good that you guessed it. I am not a kind person. I remember the faces of those bastards clearly. You will only be the first to die." Ting Qingshan tightened his grip. Crack. Huff huff, Wan Tuyo's eyes widened as blood trickled down from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were filled with shock and anger. Only now did he understand. What kind of terrifying monster did the Supreme Sex offend during the battle at the Great Yen Mountain? How he wished he could tell the Supreme Sex to quickly send their top experts to kill this monster to prevent future troubles. However, he didn't have the chance. At the moment of death, Wan Tuyo could faintly see the bloody storm that Ting Qingshan would create in the land of the 9 prefectures in the future. An 18-year-old Golden Dan innate expert. In another 10 years, 20 years, or even 30 years, what level would he reach? In the future, it would be a catastrophe for the many sects in the land of the 9 prefectures, a true catastrophe. Perhaps, among the 8 supreme sects, there would be sects that would be completely annihilated in the catastrophe that Ting Qingshan would create in the future. However, no one knew. Those sects had no idea what happened on a small island in the distant North Sea. Humph! Ting Qingshan loosened his grip, and Wan Tuyo's corpse fell to the ground powerlessly. Roar, kill, kill! Waves of frenzied battle cries came from below. Because of Wan Tuyo's death, the soldiers of Snow Hawk Hall lost their last bit of confidence. All the soldiers of Snow Hawk Hall fled frantically. As for the soldiers of the God of Heaven Mountain, they chased after them frantically. Ting Qingshan stood on top of a mountain rock and watched the battle happening below in silence. Phew! A white divine eagle swooped down and landed beside Ting Qingshan. Li Jun, who was dressed in light green armor, jumped down and smiled like a flower. She lowered her voice and asked, "Big Brother Ting, what did you say to Wan Tuyo just now?" Seeing Li Jun's mischievous expression, Ting Qingshan felt as if he could see his wife, Kitten, from his previous life competing with him in internal martial arts. After losing, Kitten acted shamelessly. "What are you looking at?" Li Jun blushed slightly. "I just thought of something." Ting Qingshan hastily answered and changed the topic. "Little June, the matter here is over. I will immediately inform Borilimu and the others, and then we will set sail." "You're not eating together?" Li Jun was startled. "Let's leave after the celebratory feast." "No." Ting Qingshan shook his head. Seeing Ting Qingshan's expression, Li Jun felt very upset. She cherished every minute and second that she could spend with Ting Qingshan, but no matter what, the day of setting sail had arrived. She couldn't stop it at all. Facing all of this made her feel powerless. "Big Brother Ting," Li Jun said softly. Ting Qingshan stared at her. Li Jun stared at Ting Qingshan and asked, "Big Brother Ting, do you still remember the letter I left for you?" "I remember." Ting Qingshan nodded. Li Jun revealed a smile and nodded. "I said in the letter that after I finish my apprenticeship, I will definitely look for Big Brother Ting. I definitely will." After teacher and I left, I kept thinking about Big Brother Ting and practiced my whip art with all my might. Later, when I found out about what happened in the Great Yen Mountain, I was very worried. It was only from Martial Uncle that I found out that Big Brother Ting was fine. Martial Uncle taught me the language of beasts, and I learned it very seriously. I thought that if my language of beasts was strong, my position in the sect would be high. Then I would be able to help Big Brother Ting. Maybe the heavens were watching, and I finally met Big Brother Ting. It was in the Great Prairie. I was very happy, very happy. Li Jun was so excited that her body trembled slightly. At that time, I was so excited that I almost couldn't control myself. The following days were the happiest days I've had in the past half a year. I could watch Big Brother Ting eat the food I cooked. I could lie on the grass and watch Big Brother Ting practice boxing from afar. I could sit under the starlight and chat with Big Brother Ting. I was very happy. Li Jun stared at Ting Qingshan without blinking. The days I spent with Big Brother Ting, even if I watched from afar, I felt joy from the bottom of my heart. "Big Brother Ting, I said in the letter that I would look for you. I don't ask for anything else. I can be your sister, or even a maid or a servant. As long as I can see you, it's fine." Ting Qingshan stood silently on the mountain rock. "Big Brother Ting, let me go to sea with you." Li Jun stared at Ting Qingshan. "Little Jun." Ting Qingshan took a deep breath and wanted to say something. Li Jun hastily shook her head. "Big Brother Ting, no need to say anything. Actually, it's not a big deal for you if I go to sea with you. You'll just have one more maid." Li Jun took a deep breath and said, "Big Brother Ting, I just want an answer. Can I go or not? I won't force you. I just want an answer. If you don't want me to go, I won't pester you. I'll leave immediately." Li Jun stared at Ting Qingshan with apprehension in her eyes. Ting Qingshan didn't feel good. Letting a young lady follow him across the sea? Kitten was dead, Qing was dead. Ting Qingshan didn't want him to hurt other women. "Go back." Ting Qingshan stared at Li Jun and said softly, "After a long time, you will meet many new friends. You will be happy." "Big Brother Ting." Li Jun took a deep breath and forced a smile. "Okay, I'll listen to you. I'll go back. However, even in the future, I will always remember Big Brother Ting." Suddenly, Li Jun raised her head and let out a clear and melodious cry. Screech, the cry resounded through the sky, causing people's hearts to tremble. "Pa!" The white fierce wind celestial eagle flapped its wings and sent Ting Qingshan flying. Ting Qingshan immediately used his hands to support himself and landed on a rock. The white fierce wind celestial eagle glared at Ting Qingshan. Li Jun jumped onto the back of the white fierce-winged celestial eagle. I won't send you off. Li Jun stared at Ting Qingshan and forced a smile. I'll return to the god of Heaven Mountain first. With this, she turned her face away, tears rolling down her cheeks. Woo-woo, Li Jun lay on the back of the eagle as her tears soaked the feathers. Phew! The fierce-winged celestial eagle spread its wings and flew. The black and white fierce-winged celestial eagles rapidly flew towards the south. Ting Qingshan raised his head and watched this scene. He sighed softly in his heart. It's better to get the pain over with. He would never be able to forget the death of Kitten and Qing Qing. P.S. Chapter 5 is up, continue writing Chapter 6. Chapter 6 will also be the final chapter of Chapter 6, Traveling the World on a Horse. Chapter 296. As Ting Qingshan stood on the rock, many soldiers were cleaning up the corpses below him. Boralimu raised his head and looked at Ting Qingshan. When he saw that Ting Qingshan's expression wasn't right and that Li Jun had left on the fierce wind divine eagle, he couldn't help but feel puzzled. Whoosh! Whoosh! Boralimu leaped twice and reached a height of over 10 zhang. He smiled and asked, Brother Huha, what happened? Why did Her Highness leave just like that? Weren't you going out to sea? She's not sending you off? Little June is busy. Ting Qingshan glanced at Boralimu and scolded with a smile. Why are you looking at me like that? What are you thinking about? No matter how I look at it, the two of you look like a pair of lovers throwing a tantrum. Boralimu laughed and patted Ting Qingshan's shoulder as he said, Brother Hua, your strength is not bad. But this feeling, I'm afraid he's not as good as me. I even have a great-grandson now. Remember, you should seize the opportunity. Otherwise, it will be very painful. Ting Qingshan looked at Boralimu. Boralimu was more than 180 years old. The lifespan of a post-liminary expert was 150 years old. If Boralimu's wife was of the same age as him, then his wife would have died a long time ago. Life is just like this. Boralimu smiled and said, Be happy. Both of them were happy. I see that you don't have any other women. That's right. Be nice to little June. No matter what you say, it's too late. Ting Qingshan shook his head and smiled. Boralimu, I originally wanted to look for you to inform you. Now it's better. I'm going to board a ship and set sail immediately. So urgent? You're not going to the celebratory feast? Boralimu asked in surprise. No. Ting Qingshan shook his head. By the way, where's General Liu? I'll let him arrange the boat. Boralimu looked at Ting Qingshan helplessly and said, I really don't know what you are thinking. Aren't you just going to the sea to cultivate? There was no need to be so anxious. Marriage was also very important in one's life. Sigh. Xiao Jun is such a good girl. Yet you left her alone on the God of Heaven Mountain while you floated on the ocean by yourself. Big brother Boralimu, can you stop talking? Ting Qingshan hastily said. If you don't listen to your elders, you will suffer. Boralimu immediately said, Let's go. Follow me. What for? Ting Qingshan was startled. Aren't you looking for General Liu? Boralimu glanced at Ting Qingshan and said, I'll take you there. Ting Qingshan followed Boralimu as they walked on Heavenly Rock Island. Along the way, they saw a large amount of corpses and fresh blood. The soldiers of the God of Heaven Mountain were cleaning up. Of the 10,000 soldiers of Snow Hawk Hall, only a few were killed, while the rest surrendered obediently. On the entire Heavenly Rock Island, the miners had the fewest casualties. Whether it was the Snow Hawk Hall or the God of Heaven Mountain, mining still required these miners. At the southern coast of Heavenly Rock Island, Godly General, the black-bearded brawny man hastily said respectfully. Boralimu smiled and said, Lord Huha is in a hurry to go out to sea. Have you prepared the ship he asked you to prepare? The black-bearded brawny man looked at Ting Qingshan and said excitedly, Lord Huha, you asked me to prepare a ship that can go out to sea. After I went ashore, I immediately ordered people to search for it. Not long ago, we found a good ship. This ship was said to be specially built by Wantuyo of Snow Hawk Hall to travel on the ocean by himself. The entire body of the ship is made of tungsten wood, which is harder and more tenacious than ordinary steel. Tungsten wood. This Wantuyo sure is extravagant. Boralima smiled as he glanced at Ting Qingshan and said, "Brother Hua, you have made a fortune this time." Luck. Ting Qingshan smiled. Boralima hastily ordered, "Don't talk nonsense. Hurry, where is the ship? Lead the way." "It's very close." The black-bearded brawny man hastily led the way. In just a moment, Ting Qingshan and Boralima followed General Lu to a seaside a few li away. From afar, Ting Qingshan could see a large ship that was completely black with white edges on the side. Although this large ship couldn't be compared to the warship from before, it wasn't small either. This tungsten wood vessel is about 12 zhang long. It is 5 zhang wide. Its entire body is made of tungsten wood and is inlaid with heavenly bright silver. The cost of this ship alone is comparable to our 3 warships. General Lu exclaimed in admiration. "General!" The soldiers in charge of looking after the tungsten wood vessel immediately saluted. General Lu nodded and asked, "Is the food and clothing ready?" "It's all in the cabin." One of the soldiers said respectfully, "We have checked the entire tungsten wood vessel. We even added an anchor. The rest doesn't need to be modified. This ship is already very well built. If we close the cabin door, it will be fine even if we encounter huge waves." General Lu smiled and nodded. He then looked at Boralimu and Ting Qingshan and said, "Lords, let's board the ship first." The 3 of them were experts and didn't need wooden planks. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 3 of them jumped onto the tungsten wood vessel one after the other. Using tungsten wood to build a ship. Ting Qingshan looked at it and sighed in admiration at the extravagance of Snow Hawk Hall. There were no cabins above the deck of the tungsten wood vessel. General Lu touched the thick and long mast and sighed with emotion. "Lord, this tungsten wood vessel has 2 masts that are placed side by side. When the time comes, Lord can use the wind more effectively on the sea. Moreover, the crossbar of the sail isn't fixed. The sail can change direction according to the direction of the wind to obtain the greatest speed." Ting Qingshan looked at it and nodded in satisfaction. "Here are 2 huge oars." General Lu walked to the center of the deck and said, "When there is no wind to borrow power or when there is some danger, one needs to speed up and escape or change direction. One can use these 2 long oars to move the ship. On the big ship, a large number of soldiers can move the ship at the same time. However, these 2 huge oars are obviously prepared for super experts. I believe that with Lord Hua's strength, it will be very easy for him to move the 2 oars at the same time." Ting Qingshan looked at it and was very satisfied. "Ha ha!" Boralima laughed. "Moving the 2 oars is nothing. It won't be hard for Brother Hua to lift the big ship and run at will." Ting Qingshan couldn't help but laugh. Who would be stupid enough to lift the big ship and run? Also, there are 2 big iron anchors here. General Lu looked at Ting Qingshan and asked, "Does Lord Hua know how to weigh and drop the anchor?" Although weighing and dropping the anchor wasn't difficult, it wasn't something that could be done easily by someone who had never done it before. Moreover, Ting Qingshan could only do it by himself. Boralimu immediately smiled and said, "Don't worry about him. If worst comes to worst, he can just jump into the water and weigh the anchor." "Weigh and drop the anchor, I understand." Ting Qingshan looked at Boralimu helplessly. "Many things on this ship are very simple." General Lu pointed at the cabin door that led to the bottom of the ship and said, "Open the cabin door and you can rest inside. If you encounter a huge wave, you can lower the sails and close the cabin door. When the cabin door is closed, the water won't be able to enter." Ting Qingshan nodded satisfactorily. "Very good." With this, Ting Qingshan weighed the anchor. This was because they were now south of Heavenly Rock Island, and the wind was blowing from the south. Therefore, Ting Qingshan could only row the boat to set off. After cultivating on the sea for a while, you should return to the God of Heaven Mountain often. I think that Lady Little June will definitely miss you. Boralimu and Ting Qingshan hugged each other and bade farewell. Brother Boralimu, mind your own business. I hope that the next time I come, you will have reached the emptiness realm. Ting Qingshan smiled and said, Thank you for your kind words. Boralimu and General Lu got off the boat. Brother Huha, take care. Boralimu waved his hand and shouted from the shore. Ting Qingshan rowed the boat. With Ting Qingshan's arm strength, he alone surpassed over 100 elite soldiers. The tungstenwood vessel rapidly broke through the waves and headed towards the east. Ting Qingshan turned his head and looked at the shore. Boralimu was still standing there waving his hand. Soon, the vessel arrived at the east of Heavenly Rock Island and started sailing northward. Simultaneously, Ting Qingshan raised 2 big sails. Phew! Phew! The sails swelled up and the tungsten-wood vessel rapidly sailed northward. Ting Qingshan no longer needed to row the boat. Take care. Ting Qingshan stared at the boundless sea. Voila! The waves undulated slightly. Ting Qingshan stood on the deck and stared at the vast and boundless sea. From today onwards I will be alone. I will cultivate wholeheartedly and sail across the sea towards the faraway northern sea continent. Ting Qingshan's heart was very tranquil. The tungsten-wood vessel continued to sail northward. This time, Ting Qingshan was pleasantly surprised to meet Li Jun on the Great Prairie. However, this entanglement of feelings also made Ting Qingshan feel guilty. However, he was afraid. The death of Kitten and Qingqing made him afraid. After a long time, Little June will probably marry someone. Ting Qingshan immediately turned around and opened the cabin door. Voila! The cabin door opened. Just as Ting Qingshan was about to walk down the stairs, his ears suddenly twitched. Who is it? Ting Qingshan shouted in a deep voice. Crack! The sound of a wooden chest opening was heard. Subsequently, Ting Qingshan saw. A young girl with messy hair threw away the quilt and quickly walked towards the stairs. Ting Qingshan stared at the person in front of him in astonishment. Little June? Yes, it's me. Li Jun giggled. Why are you here? Ting Qingshan asked in astonishment. Li Jun curled her lips helplessly and appeared very mischievous. I originally wanted to sit on Big White's back and leave. However, when Big White flew to the southern coast, I suddenly decided to find General Lu and board this ship. Yes, Big Brother Ting, I have to say, you are too awesome. I hid in the wooden chest in the cabin and even wrapped myself in a quilt. However, when you opened the cabin door, you could still hear my breathing. Too awesome. You are not praising me for being awesome. Let me ask you, why are you doing this? Ting Qingshan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Li Jun walked to the railing and looked at the ocean ahead. When I was on Big White's back and was about to leave Heavenly Rock Island, I suddenly decided, if I really return to the God of Heaven Mountain, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Therefore I am here. Li Jun turned her head and stared at Ting Qingshan. She stared at Ting Qingshan. Big Brother Ting, I am already on the ship. You can either take me with you, or let me get off the ship. I will swim to Heavenly Rock Island alone. Of course, I am already so far away. I will probably use up all my inner strength and drown in the sea. Li Jun stared at Ting Qingshan. Big Brother Ting, you choose. You can only choose one of the two. Looking at Li Jun, whose hair was messy because she hid in the wooden chest, Ting Qingshan suddenly felt touched. Choose one of the two. Li Jun's decision was very obvious. This little girl, who was willing to be a servant and follow by his side, had the same mentality as the weak little girl whose family was ruined and died. But there was only one choice between the two. All right, from today onwards I am your big brother, Ting Qingshan said with a smile. Li Jun hugged Ting Qingshan's arm and smiled brightly. Yes, Big Brother is also very good. In the future, I can act like a spoiled brat with Big Brother. Ting Qingshan looked at Li Jun and smiled dotingly. Big Brother, where are we going? Are we going to float around aimlessly? Li Jun asked. Northern Sea Continent. Ting Qingshan looked towards the north and said slowly. On the vast and boundless sea, the rays of the morning sun seemed to scatter a thin layer of gauze over the sea. Li Jun and Ting Qingshan stood in front of the railings of the ship. Under the sunlight, it was as if they were covered by a layer of red gauze. Voila, the sea was boundless and the sails fluttered. The tungsten-wood vessel kept sailing towards the north and gradually got further away. Finally, it became a small black dot on the surface of the sea. P.S. 6 chapters have been updated. The 6th chapter, Traveling the World on a Horse, has ended. From tomorrow onwards, the 7th chapter, Northern Sea Continent, will be officially updated. Since December, many people said that Tomato's character was bad. Tomato smiled bitterly. From December 1st to today's 7th, according to 2 chapters per day, it should be 14 chapters. However, Tomato actually updated 19 chapters. Because Tomato didn't save any chapters, he was unable to update evenly, so he was scolded by others. Tomato only wanted to say that Tomato had worked very hard. Everything else was useless. As for how many chapters were updated, it would be clear at a glance from the VIP list. Tomato didn't want to say anything more. Tomato only wanted to say that he didn't lack chapters, he only needed to update more chapters. Logically speaking, after finishing 1 chapter and writing 6 chapters in one go, it was very tiring. Tomato should rest tomorrow. However, Tomato wouldn't rest tomorrow. Tomorrow, he would directly start updating the 7th chapter, Northern Sea Continent. Moreover, he would continue to update 3 chapters. Tomato worked hard to write novels, and he hoped that everyone would use their monthly votes and recommendation votes to support Tomato. Monthly votes, recommendation votes, and comments were all good ways to support and encourage an author. Chapter 297. The seawater reflected dreamy colors under the sunlight. Ting Qingshan and Li Jun stood at the bow of the ship, leaning on the railing and looking at the boundless sea view. Li Jun's face was full of smiles. It was a smile that came from the bottom of her heart. At this moment she was unprecedentedly happy as she said, "Big Brother Ting, when we were on the prairie, you told me that you went out to sea this time to cultivate. So, you have been lying to me all along. Speak, what kind of place is the Northern Sea Continent?" Ting Qingshan couldn't help but smile. "Since you're going, I won't hide it from you." Ting Qingshan looked towards the north. "The Northern Sea Continent is in the north. It's probably hundreds of thousands of li away." "Hundreds of thousands of li?" Li Jun sucked in a breath of cold air as her eyes widened. "How big is the land of the 9 prefectures? Drifting for hundreds of thousands of miles? The wind would not blow all the way to the north. If the direction of the wind were to change, it would take a long time for them to reach this distance of hundreds of thousands of miles. Furthermore, it was so far away. How could he discover it? Big Brother Ting, how did you know?" At this moment, Li Jun was filled with doubts. "Emperor, you told me." Ting Qingshan pretended to be mysterious. "Emperor Yu? He's been dead for who knows how many years. How can I tell you? Is it a dream?" Li Jun laughed. "This is related to Emperor Yu's treasure in the Great Yen Mountain." Following Ting Qingshan's description, Li Jun also quieted down and listened attentively. Only now did she know what kind of tragic battle had taken place in the lake at the bottom of the Great Yen Mountain. She also understood why Ting Qingshan went to the Northern Sea Continent. Li Jun sighed in a low voice. Qing Qing died quite miserably. She was completely affected. Yeah. Ting Qingshan looked at the boundless waves, his gaze distant. "Actually, it's all for the sake of profit. All the supreme sects wanted to obtain Emperor Yu's treasure. The reason why they fought after that was to fight for the elixir of the North Sea. Whether it's me, Qing Qing, or even the Gui Yuan sect, we're all sacrifices in this battle. Why do we have to be manipulated? It is because we are too weak. If the Gui Yuan sect is as powerful as the Mani Temple, who dares to let my Gui Yuan sect's 3,000 black armored corps search them one by one? Even if it can't compare to the Mani Temple, as long as it can reach the level of Xiao Yao Palace, Qing Hu Island, and Shooting Sun God Mountain, those people won't dare to go overboard. This is strength. Ting Qingshan saw it very clearly. For example, in the various villages in E-City, the more powerful the villagers lived better lives. The girls from the other villages all wanted to marry him. This was strength. In the society of his previous life, A-rank assassins and assassin organizations could easily manipulate you. But as an SS-rank assassin, the assassin organization had to support you. Even for ordinary people, it would be easier for them to find a girlfriend if they had money or a good job. And no one else would dare to bully you. Everything was the same. Others would only respect you if you were strong. For me, this trip to the Northern Sea continent is a kind of training. Ting Qingshan's eyes were burning. The Godly Axe Mountain is one aspect. Even if I didn't go to the Godly Axe Mountain, the various setbacks on the way back and forth would have deepened my understanding of Tao. Only when I am strong can I go back to the land of the 9 prefectures. Li Jun listened to Ting Qingshan's narration and a smile appeared on her face. During the escape journey, Ting Qingshan actually felt that his state of mind had changed. During the half a year in the prairie, Ting Qingshan used the sky as his blanket and the ground as his bed. He either helped the ordinary poor prairie residents or killed some mounted bandits. In this kind of cultivation, killing, and helping, Ting Qingshan's entire mind gradually approached perfection, and it was easier for him to understand Tao. For example, when Zhuge Yuanhong saw Ting Qingshan's strength for the first time, he exclaimed in admiration. He thought that Ting Qingshan treated the heavens and the earth as his teacher and had a pure heart. In fact, Ting Qingshan did not have a pure child's heart in the past. What was a pure child's heart? It was like a child who was just born. At that time, he did not know good or evil, good or bad. He observed the world with the purest and purest eyes. His heart was pure and flawless. He had never received any teachings from the outside world, so he was limited. Because it was the purest, he could understand the world more clearly. He had come into contact with Tao. However, Ting Qingshan was different. In his previous life, Ting Qingshan had gone through the hellish training of being an assassin. His mind had long been affected. In this life, after a series of setbacks, he could only be born after entering the world. Ting Qingshan had experienced a lot and saw through many things. He had experienced the world in the prairie and finally, his mind was close to pure and flawless. Everything pointed to the heart. Ting Qingshan understood that the pure and innocent heart was actually a kind of return. After experiencing the mortal world, he would return to the pure and innocent heart of a newborn baby. Know yourself, know your heart. Only a mind that had gone through the baptism of the boundless secular world could be considered a real achievement. With such a mind, it would be easier to understand Tao. Because of this, Ting Qingshan's earth elemental Tao had reached such a high level in half a year. The journey of drifting in the North Sea is also a process of baptizing the heart and understanding Tao. Ting Qingshan's heart was calm, without any ripples. In the evening, the sea breeze blew. Catch fish? Big brother Ting, how do you catch fish? Li Jun stood on the deck and looked down at the seawater. She had said that it was time to eat, but Ting Qingshan actually said that he wanted to get some live food and jumped into the sea. Voila, the seawater began to surge. Li Jun immediately widened her eyes and looked carefully. She saw the surging seawater become more and more violent. Li Jun looked down in surprise. She saw Ting Qingshan, whose body was covered in a fiery red glow, practicing a set of fist arts with both of his hands. In front of him, there was actually a huge mass of water floating in front of him. It seemed to be controlled by his hands, and there was a large number of fish in the mass of water. Li Jun was completely stunned. How did he do this? Why can't the fish swim out of the mass of water? Why is the mass of water under his control? Catch! Ting Qingshan laughed loudly. As if he was playing with a rubber ball, he suddenly flicked it. Boom! The large mass of water was suddenly tossed up. When it was in midair, it immediately exploded and transformed into a large amount of water that fell onto the tungsten wood vessel's deck. There were at least a few hundred white fish that smashed onto the deck. Plop, plop, plop. It was a spectacular sight. Phew! Ting Qingshan stepped on the water and leaped onto the deck. Li Jun. Ting Qingshan looked at Li Jun and couldn't help but laugh. Why didn't you tell me in advance? Li Jun was so angry that she clenched her teeth. At this moment, Li Jun's clothes were also wet. There was even a fish that smashed onto her head and rolled onto the deck, continuously rolling. Didn't I tell you to catch it? Ting Qingshan smiled. Hurry up and prepare the roasted fish. Oh, you should go and change your clothes first. Okay. Li Jun snorted and immediately went into the cabin. Ting Qingshan looked at the rolling fish on the deck and his mood became even better. Ting Qingshan also realized, although it was only the second day since he entered the ocean, his mental state and understanding the concept of his fist art were much more comfortable and natural. After Li Jun and Ting Qingshan ate the roasted fish, Ting Qingshan practiced his fist art. Occasionally, Li Jun would also practice her fist art. Occasionally, she would just watch from the side. Only when it was late at night did the two enter the cabin. Inside the cabin, the large flowery cloth just happened to separate the entire cabin. Ting Qingshan slept in the area outside the flowery cloth, while Li Jun usually stayed inside. It seems like it wasn't a wise decision to bring little June along. Ting Qingshan rubbed his chin and smiled bitterly. After 2 days, Ting Qingshan discovered many problems. For example, people had 3 urgent needs such as changing clothes, sleeping, and so on. Many trifling matters in life were very troublesome because of the differences between men and women. Last night, Ting Qingshan and Li Jun were basically decorating the cabin and didn't sleep well at all. Tonight was the real night of rest. The floor of the cabin was covered with a cotton blanket. Ting Qingshan directly sat cross-legged on it and closed his eyes to meditate. To Ting Qingshan, meditating and sleeping had no difference. Voila! The sound of water flowing continued outside the cabin. For a moment the cabin was very quiet. Li Jun quietly pulled open the flowery cloth curtain and looked towards Ting Qingshan. Seeing that Ting Qingshan was meditating quietly, she smiled and closed the curtain again. Woo! Li Jun lay on the bed and raised her head to look at the ceiling. I'm finally together with Big Brother Ting. Watching him meditate and sleep, watching him practice martial arts, watching him eat, watching him smile bitterly and helplessly. Li Jun thought and couldn't help but smile. She felt very happy. After a long time, she finally fell asleep. Rumble, the cabin suddenly began to shake. Li Jun's body swayed and fell off the bed. She said in panic, Big Brother Ting, what happened? With this, she put on her clothes and pulled open the curtain. At this moment, Ting Qingshan had already stood up and walked up the stairs. It should be the wind and waves. Ting Qingshan also didn't dare to be sure. Stay in the cabin, don't go out. Li Jun obediently stayed in the cabin. Voila! The moment the cabin door was opened, a large amount of rainwater flowed in and smashed onto his face. It's only the second day. Did something happen? Ting Qingshan immediately jumped out and closed the cabin door. Rumble, outside, Ting Qingshan felt that the situation was bad. He saw the gloomy sea in front of him roaring and sweeping, and the entire tungsten wood vessel swayed continuously in the violent sea. So unlucky! Ting Qingshan immediately lowered all the sails. Ting Qingshan felt unsteady standing on the vessel. Ting Qingshan suddenly leaped. Whoosh! With a single leap, he reached a height of over 20 zhang. Standing high in the air, Ting Qingshan looked down. He saw that the water was constantly rotating, and a huge and frightening whirlpool had already formed. The tungsten wood vessel was in the middle of the whirlpool, constantly rotating along the whirlpool and rolling in the sea waves. The tungsten wood vessel was like a toy that could shatter at any time, causing Ting Qingshan to feel nervous. Whirlpool. So unlucky. The tungsten wood vessel shouldn't be so fragile. Ting Qingshan's body fell down again. This time, he fell into the sea. Phew! Ting Qingshan stepped on the water and rushed towards the tungsten wood vessel. Rumble! A huge wave rushed over and drowned Ting Qingshan. Chapter 298. Submerged in the seawater, it was still being spun by the force of the whirlpool. It would be troublesome if the tungsten wood vessel was sucked into the depths of the whirlpool. I only have one vessel. Ting Qingshan carefully looked down. With his night vision, he could clearly see that there was a long and thick water column whirlpool in the depths of the seawater in front of him. With a thought, Ting Qingshan made a decision. Phew! Dashing out of the seawater, Ting Qingshan circulated his innate true origin and performed the Qin Gong crossing worlds as he stepped on the water. Whoosh! Like a sharp arrow piercing through the sky, he leaped twice in the seawater and landed on the deck of the tungsten wood vessel. Hua! Ting Qingshan opened the cabin door and dashed in like a lightning bolt. The cabin shook incessantly, and many boxes, clothes, pots, bowls, and ladles were scattered on the ground. Fortunately, these pots and bowls were made of iron and were not easily damaged. Big Brother Ting, what's going on outside? Li Jun, who was in the cabin, asked worriedly. Ting Qingshan picked up the dark blaze rod and said with a smile, "It's nothing serious. It's just a huge whirlpool. It will be settled in a while." Ting Qingshan held the dark blaze rod and quickly went out of the cabin door and closed it. Standing on the deck, he felt the shaking of the vessel. Isn't it just a whirlpool? Ting Qingshan leaped off the tungsten wood vessel and plunged into the chaotic seawater. At this moment, the seawater was gloomy and chaotic, like a huge roaring beast. Although the force of the whirlpool was strong, it was not enough to restrict the movements of an expert like Ting Qingshan. Ting Qingshan held the dark blaze rod and dived into the depths of the seawater. The sea was chaotic, but the depths of the seawater were relatively quiet. With his naked eyes, Ting Qingshan could see a whirlpool of water leading to the surface of the sea. Break it! Ting Qingshan moved his legs and swiftly swam over. As he approached the water column, Ting Qingshan could faintly feel the suction force. Humph! Ting Qingshan charged directly into the water column. When he entered the whirlpool of water, hua hua, the force of the whirlpool caused Ting Qingshan's ears to be filled with a violent sound. Freeze! The innate true origin on the surface of Ting Qingshan's body vibrated, stabilizing Ting Qingshan. Spin! Ting Qingshan let out a deep roar and started brandishing his dark blaze rod downwards, completely reversing the direction of the whirlpool. Wielding the dark blaze rod in a reverse direction within the whirlpool was an extremely difficult task. However, Ting Qingshan was still able to do it. Phew! Phew! The dark blaze rod was brandished. My strength is not enough. Ting Qingshan's face turned slightly red. His arms suddenly bulged and pushed up his sleeves. The originally brandishing dark blaze rod began to spin. If it could still be seen with the naked eye, the current speed of the dark blaze rod was so fast that it was impossible to see it clearly. As it spun wildly in the reverse direction, the whirlpool immediately shook. The whirlpool at the bottom of the sea was still in a stalemate with Ting Qingshan. When the powerful force of the whirlpool at the bottom of the sea reached Ting Qingshan, it was destroyed. Naturally, the whirlpool above Ting Qingshan dispersed. In the cabin of the tungsten wood vessel, Li Jun had been holding onto the cabin wall, trying to stabilize herself. It stabilized. Li Jun also realized that the shaking of the cabin was gradually weakening. Very soon, there was almost no shaking at all. Big Brother Ting, did you solve the problem? Li Jun opened the cabin door and walked onto the deck. The gloomy seawater of the night was like a man-devouring monster. However, at this moment, the whirlpool had already dissipated, and the surface of the sea only trembled slightly. Where is Big Brother Ting? Li Jun carefully looked around. The seawater was still tumbling, but there was no sign of Ting Qingshan. In the seawater, Ting Qingshan was swimming downwards, and at the same time, he was also disturbing the whirlpool. Actually, Ting Qingshan had two options. The first option was to continuously destroy the whirlpool and allow the tungsten wood vessel to drift away from that area. However, this method would take a long time. The second option was to directly rush to the source of the whirlpool and temporarily destroy the source. Then, he would naturally be able to safely board the vessel and leave. Without a doubt, Ting Qingshan chose the second option. I wonder how this whirlpool was created. Ting Qingshan was puzzled. In just a short while, Ting Qingshan arrived at the bottom of the sea. What is this? Ting Qingshan looked at the gray and dull ground. A gigantic creature with faint golden fragments was lying on the seabed. A large amount of water was being swallowed by its mouth, and then a large amount of water was being sprayed out from its gills. This gigantic creature was about 20 zhang long, and it was much larger than the thunder whale he saw earlier. Swallowing water? What is it doing? Ting Qingshan looked puzzled. With a length of 20 zhang, its weight should be at least a few 100,000 jin. Its body is covered with golden fragments, and it looks like a thunder whale. However, this demonic beast has a horn that looks like a sharp knife. Let's temporarily call it Unicorn Thunder Whale. Ting Qingshan saw that the monster had a lot of teeth in its mouth. There were a total of 5 elements of teeth that intertwined with each other. The stones, wood, and other things that were flowing into its mouth along with the seawater were directly blocked by its teeth. Buddy! Ting Qingshan shouted loudly. The gigantic creature's pair of golden eyes, which were the size of car wheels, stared at Ting Qingshan. It suddenly closed its mouth and stopped swallowing. That's a good boy. Ting Qingshan smiled and swam upwards. The gigantic creature suddenly opened its mouth. Boom! A pillar of water shot towards Ting Qingshan at lightning speed. Ting Qingshan, who had been swimming upwards, immediately turned his body and waved his right leg like a windmill. With a force of over 1,000,000 jin, he stirred the water and slashed at the pillar of water. Bang! The pillar of water exploded from the kick, and the water at the bottom of the sea shook violently. Roar! The unicorn thunder whale swiftly swung its tail and dashed in front of Ting Qingshan. At the same time, it let out a furious roar. Its golden eyes were filled with anger after being provoked. It was the king of this area of the sea, and none of the demonic beasts in the surroundings dared to provoke it. A little human dared to provoke it? Ting Qingshan looked at the unicorn thunder whale and shook his head helplessly. Big guy, I only asked you to stop so that I can sail away. Although I don't mind fighting you, I don't want to bully a demonic beast. Ting Qingshan had seen Emptiness Realm demonic beasts a few times in the past. Emptiness Realm demonic beasts were completely different from Golden Dan innate demonic beasts. An Emptiness Realm demonic beast's every move could cause the power of the heavens and the earth to tremble. Just a glance from it could give people an absolute sense of oppression. Ting Qingshan could still clearly remember the fear in his heart when he saw the demonic dragon Violet Rain. In Ting Qingshan's eyes, the unicorn thunder whale before him was at most a Golden Dan innate demonic beast. Actually, Emptiness Realm demonic beasts were very rare. It wasn't easy to encounter one. After fighting with a Golden Dan innate demonic beast and comprehending the second part of the earth element fist, Ting Qingshan had absolute confidence. Ting Qingshan didn't want to bully a Golden Dan innate demonic beast. Roar, the unicorn thunder whale, was very intelligent. It could sense Ting Qingshan's attitude. This immediately enraged it. Boom! The unicorn thunder whale swung its tail fiercely and dashed towards Ting Qingshan in a flash. At the same time, it opened its terrifying big mouth. Every tooth in that big mouth was bigger than a human head and extremely sharp. There were a total of 5 rows of teeth. Ting Qingshan could feel the sharpness of the teeth just by looking at them. Ting Qingshan waved the dark blaze rod in his hand. Bang! The rod smashed onto the unicorn thunderwhale's head. However, the surface of the unicorn thunderwhale's head was too tough. Ting Qingshan only managed to break the skin and blood flowed out. Phew! The unicorn thunderwhale's mouth produced a terrifying suction force. Simultaneously, it bit towards Ting Qingshan with its bloody mouth. Oh no! At the edge of the unicorn thunderwhale's mouth, Ting Qingshan finally felt how terrifying the suction force was. He was about to be uncontrollably sucked into the unicorn thunderwhale's mouth. Ting Qingshan's facial expression changed slightly as he thought to himself, if the skull is so hard, the teeth must be even harder. He reckoned that he would be bitten to death the moment he entered the unicorn thunderwhale's mouth. To demonic beasts, sharp claws and teeth were godly weapons. With a bite and a chew, even godly weapons could be chewed into scrap metal. Humph! Ting Qingshan waved the dark blaze rod and smashed it against the teeth. The powerful counterforce allowed Ting Qingshan to escape from the suction force. Roar! The unicorn thunder whale floated at the bottom of the sea and stared at Ting Qingshan. Ting Qingshan held the dark blaze rod in his hand and looked at the enormous creature. He revealed a smile and said, I originally didn't want to fight with you, but since you are so interested. Ting Qingshan instantly turned into a phantom and dashed towards the unicorn thunder whale. Simultaneously, he withdrew his innate true origin and covered his entire body with the internal supreme force. He completely unleashed his power. Roar! The unicorn thunder whale, whose status hadn't been challenged for many years, roared and dashed over. In the depths of the sea, a human and a demonic beast started fighting. The demonic beast thought that it was being challenged, while the human was a belligerent. Naturally, the two of them started fighting wildly. Boom! Boom! Ting Qingshan's dark blaze rod was powerful and heavy. Once he got serious, his defense could be said to be perfect. Whoosh! Swirling water currents appeared around Ting Qingshan. The unicorn thunder whale couldn't help but roar angrily as he smashed his rod repeatedly. There were many wounds on its enormous body, but because its body was too huge, the wounds could only be considered as minor. Suddenly, Chi-Chi, the unicorn thunder whale's entire body emitted azure gold electric arcs, and all the electric arcs frantically surged towards the blade-like horn on its head. Seeing this scene, Ting Qingshan's facial expression changed drastically. Could this monster really be a thunder whale? The unicorn thunder whale was a name that Ting Qingshan came up with. Ting Qingshan didn't know what kind of demonic beast this was. After all, thunder whales didn't have horns and their colors were different. At the bottom of the sea, the electric arcs gathered on the horn on the head of the enormous creature had already turned into a pure gold color. The unicorn thunder whale's wheel-sized eyes stared coldly at Ting Qingshan. Phew! The golden electric arcs shot out from the horn, and the surface of Ting Qingshan's body was already enveloped by a layer of innate true origin. Too fast! Ting Qingshan didn't even have time to dodge, and the golden electric arcs had already hit him. Pooh! The innate true origin instantly exploded, and the electric arcs immediately acted on Ting Qingshan's body. The strong electric arcs caused all of Ting Qingshan's muscles and bones to violently twitch. However, the internal supreme force that was hidden in the depths of every cell in his body immediately rushed out and dispersed the electric arcs. Even Ting Qingshan's long hair was flickering with an earthy yellow radiance. At this moment Ting Qingshan, the surface of his body was covered with golden electric arcs, and the earthy yellow radiance flickered at the same time. The unicorn thunder whale looked at the scene before it in astonishment. The human in front of it actually didn't die. P.S. Here's the second chapter. Today, the first chapter was actually late by more than 10 seconds. It was only updated at 31 minutes. Tomato had to say, I didn't do it on purpose this time. It was purely because of the network delay, and Chidian's author section's response was too slow. What a tragedy. Alright, the result was already done, and it couldn't be changed. However, Tomato had already updated 6 chapters yesterday, and he indeed didn't prepare to update 4 chapters today. How about this? I'll still update 3 chapters today. I'll update 1 more chapter tomorrow, and I'll update 4 chapters tomorrow. Chapter 299. The human body was only so big, but it could exert a force of 800,000 jin. It wasn't strange that Ting Qingshan's body was harder than dark steel. Plus, there was the internal supreme force hidden deep within his body. This allowed Ting Qingshan's body to combine the inside and outside of his body, which made it much easier for him to defend against external attack. Ordinary Golden Dan innate experts might be electrocuted to death after their protective light shield was broken. However, Ting Qingshan wouldn't die. Roar! The unicorn thunder whale let out a deep roar. Its huge eyes stared at Ting Qingshan with astonishment. At this moment, the clothes on Ting Qingshan's body had already turned into ashes. The naked Ting Qingshan held the dark blaze rod in his hand, and a hint of anger could be seen in his eyes. If I knew that this whirlpool was caused by you, I wouldn't have brought the dark blaze rod. I would have brought the reincarnation spear instead of the dark blaze rod. Your body wouldn't have these wounds, but bloody holes. Previously, Ting Qingshan wanted to break the whirlpool, and the material of the dark blaze rod was better than that of the reincarnation spear. Therefore, Ting Qingshan took the dark blaze rod and entered the sea. However, in a real battle, Ting Qingshan still used the reincarnation spear in order to display his strongest fighting ability. For example, a thrust. The tip of the spear was completely different from the tip of the dark blaze rod. However, even if I don't use the reincarnation spear, I can still take care of you, you evil creature. Ting Qingshan's eyes focused and his body suddenly dashed out. Phew! In the deep sea, when Ting Qingshan dashed towards the unicorn thunder whale, the unicorn thunder whale's huge eyes shrank. It let out a deep roar and actually swung its tail, causing the sea water to surge. Its huge body rapidly fled into the distance. Phew! Phew! In Ting Qingshan's vision, the huge creature fled rapidly until it disappeared. It's really fast. Ting Qingshan was stunned as he said, Brother Borilimu is right. Even if it is an emptiness Dan innate thunder whale, it will not be able to withstand it. Even a hollow Dan innate expert can swim faster in the sea than a golden Dan innate expert. Not to mention that this thunder whale was obviously much stronger. Forget it. Now that this guy is gone, the matter has been resolved. He looked down at himself. Because he was struck by lightning, his skin, hair, and other parts of his body contained internal supreme force. Naturally, he was fine. However, his clothes instantly turned into ashes. I still have to return to the ship. Little June is still on the ship, and I'm naked. Ting Qingshan glanced in the direction in which the unicorn thunder whale had escaped. You escaped fast. Immediately, Ting Qingshan swam upwards from the bottom of the sea. At the bow of the tungsten wood vessel, Li Jun was worriedly looking at the surface of the sea. It's been so long. Why isn't he back yet? Li Jun was slightly worried. The surrounding seawater was still dark and unfathomable. No one knew what was hidden at the bottom of the sea. Did Big Brother Ting encounter a demonic beast? It'll be fine, yeah. Li Jun could only wait anxiously. Suddenly, whoosh! From the surface of the water in front of them, a fiery red ray of light broke through the surface of the water and immediately landed on the tungsten wood vessel with a leap. Big Brother Ting! Li Jun exclaimed in surprise. After the fiery red figure landed on the deck, he only said one sentence, "Yeah, I'll enter the cabin first." His voice was still echoing, but he had already entered the cabin. With a "kacha" sound, the cabin door was already closed. Big Brother Ting, what happened? Li Jun was very puzzled. She immediately thought of something and was shocked. Could it be that Big Brother Ting was injured? You don't want me to know? Bang! Bang! Li Jun immediately knocked on the cabin door and shouted, "Big Brother Ting, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Ting Qingshan's voice sounded. Soon, the cabin door opened again and Ting Qingshan, who was dressed in black, walked out with the silver reincarnation spear in his hand. "You changed your clothes?" Li Jun was slightly surprised. "Big Brother Ting, why did you take out the reincarnation spear? Are you going to fight?" Ting Qingshan went to raise the sail and said, "Previously, I encountered a powerful demonic beast at the bottom of the sea. My clothes were torn, so I changed my clothes. If I had known that there would be a demonic beast, I wouldn't have brought the dark blaze rod and would have brought the reincarnation spear instead. If I had brought the reincarnation spear, that demonic beast would have died a long time ago." Demonic beast? What kind of demonic beast is so powerful? Li Jun was slightly surprised. Ting Qingshan walked over from the mast and said with a smile, "That demonic beast looked similar to a thunder whale. Its skin was gray in color, and occasionally there were bits of gold. On its forehead, there was a horn that looked like a sword. It was over 20 zhang in length. It was much bigger than our tungsten wood vessel. It could also release thunder and lightning, golden thunder and lightning. Unlike ordinary thunder whales that shoot thunder and lightning from their dorsal fins, it shoots thunder and lightning from its horn." Li Jun listened with a face full of doubt. "Big Brother Ting, from what you said, it should be an extremely powerful thunder whale. However, I've never heard of it, and I haven't seen any records of it in the demonic beast books of the god of Heaven Mountain. In a clan, there were indeed strong and weak ones. Fierce Wind Divine Eagle, Steel Arm Ape, and many other clans had experts. Don't worry about it. This demonic beast is probably afraid of me." Ting Qingshan smiled and said, "I'm afraid it won't dare to provoke us." The unicorn thunder whale had already retreated at the bottom of the sea. It probably used all its methods but still couldn't kill Ting Qingshan, so of course it had to run away. Li Jun smiled and nodded. "Big Brother Ting can even fight against the first godly general, so why would you be afraid of those demonic beasts? Oh, Big Brother Ting, where are the torn clothes you said you fought underwater? I'll see if I can wear them again after repairing them. We can't replenish our clothes on the sea. We don't have much, so we have to save them." Ting Qingshan blinked. Clothes? His clothes had already turned into ashes. Otherwise, why would he need to cover his body with the innate true origin and enter the cabin? Ting Qingshan coughed and said, "You can't wear them anymore. I have already burned them into ashes with the innate true origin. It's still night. Don't stand in the cold wind at the bow of the ship. Go to the cabin and sleep." Li Jun obediently went into the cabin. Ting Qingshan stood at the bow of the ship and stared at the gloomy sea water. He rubbed his nose and said, "I really failed miserably because of this demonic beast. I only have 6 sets of clothes in total. If I destroy one set in one battle, I'm afraid I won't have any clothes to wear before we reach the northern sea continent." Ting Qingshan stayed at the bow of the ship for 1 hour and practiced his spear art for 1 hour. Seeing that everything was peaceful, he returned to the cabin to rest. At dawn the next day, Ting Qingshan woke up early and practiced the 3 postures on the deck. Li Jun was still sleeping in the cabin. It was probably because of the demonic beast last night that Li Jun couldn't sleep well. Voila! The seawater rippled slightly. A red light appeared in the distant east. As Ting Qingshan practiced his fist art, the sun gradually rose from the horizon. Ting Qingshan's figure suddenly stopped. Bang! The tungsten wood vessel under his feet suddenly rose 3 to 4 zhang into the air. Ting Qingshan hastily leaped out of the tungsten wood vessel. In midair, he saw a thunder whale with bluish-gray skin at the bottom of the tungsten wood vessel. Ting Qingshan couldn't help but be furious. This thunder whale was obviously an ordinary thunder whale, but it actually dared to provoke him. Moreover, it was easy to deduce that the thunder whale slowly rose from the bottom of the sea. Because it rose from the bottom of the sea, it couldn't be seen by the naked eye. In addition, the seawater had always been rippling and crashing, so it was impossible for Ting Qingshan to discover the thunder whale at the bottom of the sea. When the thunder whale touched the tungsten wood vessel and was about to send the tungsten wood vessel flying, Ting Qingshan discovered it. Whoosh! After sending the tungsten wood vessel flying, the thunder whale immediately dove into the water. With a flick of its tail fin, it created a huge wave and disappeared. Rumble, the tungsten wood vessel, which rose 3 to 4 zhang, fell back into the sea. Bang! The waves overflowed. Ting Qingshan used his qing gong and stepped on the seawater. Something's wrong. Ting Qingshan frowned. With the thunder whale's strength, even though the tungsten wood vessel is harder than ordinary steel, it is still a hollow Dan innate demonic beast. It wouldn't be difficult to pierce through the bottom of the tungsten wood vessel. Ting Qingshan stepped on the water a few times before leaping onto the deck of the tungsten wood vessel. Ting Qingshan stood at the bow of the vessel and carefully observed the surroundings. He felt that something was wrong. Hua! The cabin door opened and Li Jun ran up while covering her head with her hands. With a bitter face, she asked, "Big brother Ting, what happened just now? I was sleeping soundly, but the entire cabin suddenly shook and my head hit the cabin wall." "It was the thunder whale," Ting Qingshan said. "Thunder whale? Where is it?" Li Jun was astonished. With a solemn expression, Ting Qingshan pointed at the surroundings and said, "Look carefully." Li Jun stood at the bow of the vessel and looked. She saw huge black shadows continuously rising from the water. Hua! Hua! The dorsal fins of the thunder whales with greenish-gray skin emerged from the water, and pairs of huge black eyes stared at the tungsten wood vessel. "Big brother Ting, look over there." Li Jun's facial expression changed greatly as she pointed to the left. Hua! 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 Ting Qingshan looked over. Huge thunder whales emerged from the front, left, right, and rear of the tungsten wood vessel. Every thunder whale stared at Ting Qingshan's tungsten wood vessel. The tungsten wood vessel was 12 zhang long, and the thunder whales were slightly larger than the tungsten wood vessel. The thunder whales were densely packed and surrounded the area. "What's going on?" Ting Qingshan's heart stirred. Roar! A resounding roar reverberated above the sea. Li Jun pointed to the front in shock and said, "Big brother Ting, look in front. Is that the one you were talking about?" Ting Qingshan already saw a huge golden-skinned unicorn thunder whale amidst the school of thunder whales in front of the tungsten wood vessel. Its blade-like horn reflected a blood-red radiance under the morning sun. The pair of wheel-sized golden eyes stared at Ting Qingshan. Roar, roar, the huge thunder whale roared. "It's really it. This big guy is actually the king of the school of thunder whales." Of course, Ting Qingshan could tell. He immediately rushed into the cabin and returned to the bow of the vessel in a breath's time. At this moment, a reincarnation spear appeared in his hand. Ting Qingshan looked at the king of thunder whales and whispered, "Little Jun, talk to it and see if it's willing to give up." Roar! Li Jun also roared towards the king of thunder whales. When the king of thunder whales heard this roar, its huge eyes were filled with amazement. It then responded with a few roars. Li Jun turned to look at Ting Qingshan and said, "Big brother Ting, the king of thunder whales said that it's impossible to give up. This sea is its territory. Whoever provokes it will have to pay the price. It also said that these thunder whales are its children. With one command, our boat will be finished. P.S. 3 chapters completed. I will update tomorrow." Chapter 300. On the vast and mighty sea, hundreds of thunder whales surrounded the tungsten wood vessel. Being stared at by so many thunder whales, even Ting Qingshan's heart skipped a beat. Ting Qingshan frowned. "Ask it what it wants," Ting Qingshan said. Ting Qingshan could see that there must be a reason why so many thunder whales surrounded the tungsten wood vessel and did not launch their strongest attack. Otherwise, these hundreds of thunder whales could destroy the tungsten wood vessel in an instant. "Okay." Li Jun immediately turned her head and stood at the bow of the vessel. She roared towards the king of thunder whales in the distance. After the king of thunder whales heard Li Jun's roar, it looked at Ting Qingshan with its wheel-like eyes, giving off a feeling of superiority. It then roared, "Ho ho!" The undulating roar was something Ting Qingshan could not understand. He could only look at Li Jun. When Li Jun heard this, her complexion became unsightly. Ho! The numerous thunder whales in the surrounding sea all let out terrifying roars, as if responding to their king. Every thunder whale was not smaller than the tungsten wood vessel. The roars of these demonic beasts were needless to say. When hundreds of thunder whales roared together, it was as if thousands of thunder roared at the same time, resounding between the heavens and the earth. Ting Qingshan could not help but feel anxious. The situation did not look good. "What did this guy say?" Ting Qingshan hastily asked. Li Jun revealed an anxious expression and hastily said, "Big brother Ting, the king of thunder whales just said that you disturbed its cultivation at the bottom of the lake last night. You even injured it. This is a capital offense. Today, it brought its clan to put you on trial." "Trial? Bullsh**t. Ting Qingshan's gaze turned cold. He stared at the king of thunder whales and roared, "Little Jun, tell it. Yesterday I used a stick as a weapon, but now I have a godly spear in my hand. This is an extremely powerful godly weapon. If I used this godly weapon today, the king of thunder whales would already be dead. Tell it." Li Jun was startled. Meet force with force? Isn't it too much to make the king of thunder whales unhappy? After all, it's the king of the thunder whales, Li Jun said worriedly. "Don't worry." Ting Qingshan looked at the king of thunder whales in the distance. To be able to reach the golden Dan of the innate realm and be the king of a clan, it was very intelligent, unlike those stupid beasts that went crazy easily. "Just tell it." Li Jun was a little hesitant, but she still trusted Ting Qingshan. After pondering for a moment, Li Jun roared at the king of thunder whales. Li Jun's words were much more tactful than Ting Qingshan's, but the meaning behind them was very clear. Our side is not to be trifled with. If we provoke them too much, no one will have a good time. Before Li Jun could finish shouting, suddenly, ho! A furious roar resounded through the horizon from the king of thunder whales. The king of thunder whales' golden eyes were filled with rage, as if he was about to go crazy. Immediately, the several hundred thunder whales surrounding the tungsten wood vessel roared crazily. Walala! The seawater shook uncontrollably. The tungsten wood vessel also swayed. Li Jun couldn't even stand steadily and grabbed the railing. "Big brother Ting, this guy has gone crazy," Li Jun said impatiently. Ting Qingshan frowned. How could he go crazy so easily? Isn't it comparable to a human's intelligence? Can't be that simple. Ting Qingshan was very calm, but at this moment, the king of thunder whales was extremely angry, as if its dignity had been challenged. Ho! The king of thunder whales roared again and glared at Ting Qingshan. As soon as this roar resounded, the several hundred thunder whales around the tungsten wood vessel immediately had azure electric arcs flowing all over their bodies. For a moment, the seawater reflected an azure color. The area around the tungsten wood vessel became an area of azure lightning. Not good. Li Jun looked at the King of Thunder Whales and let out a low roar. However, Ting Qingshan's face was calm. He extended his hand to protect Li Jun and was ready to escape at any time. At the same time, he glared at the King of Thunder Whales. For a moment, the enormous King of Thunder Whales and Ting Qingshan were about 100 zhang apart as they looked at each other from a distance. Ho! The King of Thunder Whales let out a carefree roar. Immediately, the thunder whales floating in the surrounding sea withdrew their lightning into their bodies. The thunder whales stared at the tungsten wood vessel with their huge, cold, pitch-black eyes. The King of Thunder Whales once again let out a series of low roars towards Li Jun, and Li Jun responded. After a moment, Li Jun turned her head and looked at Ting Qingshan. Ting Qingshan's stomach was filled with anger. He was actually surrounded by a group of demonic beasts. However, he had to endure it. Firstly, it was for Li Jun's safety. Secondly, it was for the safety of the tungsten wood vessel. Ting Qingshan didn't want to swim hundreds of thousands of li by himself in the boundless sea. If Ting Qingshan's willpower was strong enough, he wouldn't have to worry about wasting time, and he wouldn't mind the boredom and tiredness. However, in his previous life on Earth, who would walk around Earth? Not to mention Earth, even walking tens of thousands of li would be extremely rare. They would only do it to challenge himself. Even if Ting Qingshan had the ability to swim hundreds of thousands of li in the ocean, he wouldn't do it. On the tungsten wood vessel, he raised the sail and floated towards the north. This was very pleasant. What did he say? Ting Qingshan asked. Big brother Ting. Li Jun's face showed a trace of worry. The King of Thunder Whales just said that if it gives the order, hundreds of thunder whales will release lightning at the same time. Even if you don't die, you will be heavily injured. Hundreds of thunder whales in the ocean are enough to kill you. Ting Qingshan's face darkened. Don't worry, it's not as simple as it thinks. A thunder whale is like a huge boat. Its body is so big, and I am so small. How can they surround and attack me? Ting Qingshan wasn't worried about this at all. Ask him what he wants me to agree to in order to let us leave safely. Ting Qingshan didn't think that this group of thunder whales came here just to deal with him. If they wanted to kill him, this group of thunder whales would suffer great losses. How could a king of a group be so stupid? However, that might not be the case. He was a human, and the King of Thunder Whales was a thunder whale. Perhaps their way of thinking was different. Roar, roar! Li Jun stood at the bow of the ship and roared towards the King of Thunder Whales in the ocean. Fortunately, she was an inner strength expert. Otherwise, she would have become dizzy from shouting from such a distance. Fortunately, I brought little Jun. Seeing Li Jun working so hard, Ting Qingshan suddenly had a thought. If I didn't bring little Jun in the vast North Sea, I'm afraid that if I fought against demonic beasts, I could only kill each other. Demonic beasts and humans often kill each other because they can't communicate. If they could understand each other's thoughts and requests, there would be much less killing. Bringing little Jun along in the vast North Sea would probably be more useful than a Golden Dan innate expert. A girl and a huge demonic beast communicated with each other through the language of beasts. Ting Qingshan watched and thought to himself, that King of Thunder Whales seems to have a much better attitude. Although he couldn't understand, Ting Qingshan could deduce something from the King of Thunder Whales' eyes and the emotions contained in its roars. After a while, phew! Li Jun also took a deep breath and turned her head to look at Ting Qingshan. She revealed a smile and said, Big brother Ting, the King of Thunder Whales said just now that it really wanted to teach you a lesson. It wanted to destroy your tungsten wood vessel and use a group of thunder whales to madly strike you with thunder and lightning. If it can kill you, then it will kill you. If it can't, then teaching you a lesson can be considered as letting off some steam. Ting Qingshan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If he went out to sea alone and couldn't communicate with the King of Thunder Whales, The king of thunder whales would put on airs, and then use a large group of thunder whales to strike him. It would be hard to say whether he would die or not. However, the tungsten wood vessel would definitely be destroyed. After striking him, it would arrogantly leave. In the ocean, even if Ting Qingshan transformed into a fish, he might be able to catch up to a normal thunder whale. However, against the king of thunder whales, the difference in speed was still quite large. Ting Qingshan had seen the king of thunder whales' astonishing speed last night. No matter what, he relied on his innate true origin to transform into a fish, which was too crude and simple. It couldn't be as ingenious as the thunder whale's body structure. Did it say its conditions? Ting Qingshan asked. It said to let it think about it first and tell me later, Li Jun said helplessly. Ting Qingshan was stunned and immediately didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Little June, this king of thunder whales would never have thought that we would have a human who is proficient in the language of beasts. Therefore, it didn't expect us to do anything. But now, if we don't state some conditions, the king of thunder whales won't let us go so easily. Yes, we can only wait for it to ask for a sky-high price, Li Jun said helplessly. The sea breeze blew and the rays of the sun shone on the surface of the ocean. The thunder whales calmly stayed in the surroundings. Ting Qingshan stood at the bow of the ship and looked at the thunder whales around him. He could only choose to wait. The current situation was very obvious, that he was at a disadvantage. Of course, if he cooperated with the reincarnation spear, he would be able to unleash a force that would make the king of thunder whales reconsider. After a moment, roar, the king of thunder whales let out roars. The several hundred thunder whales, which were originally calm, were now in a state of chaos as they let out chaotic roars. Li Jun listened attentively and occasionally responded. What are its conditions? After Li Jun and the king of thunder whales finished their conversation, Ting Qingshan asked. Li Jun smiled and said, Big Brother Ting, the king of thunder whales said that it really has a very important matter that it wants us to do. However, this matter will take a long time. Just by traveling by sea, it will probably take 8 to 10 days. Of course, while traveling, it will order a thunder whale to tie a rope to our tungsten wood vessel and drag it over. The speed will be very fast. Even if it's fast, it will still take 10 to half a day. Hearing this, Ting Qingshan frowned. He didn't want to waste time on the journey. Where? Ting Qingshan asked. It's on a mysterious island in the northwest direction. Once Li Jun said this, a smile appeared on Ting Qingshan's face. Northwest direction? Ting Qingshan wasn't sure of the exact location of the northern sea continent. He only knew that it was heading north. Because of the monsoon and the various situations on the sea, it was impossible for the ship to accurately head north. Normally, it would randomly head northwest, northeast, or north. After all, the northern sea continent was a very large continent. As long as they reached the continent, it would be fine. The island in the northwest direction? Ting Qingshan smiled and said, It seems that not only will we not waste time, but we will also travel faster with the thunder whale dragging the tungsten wood vessel. Yes, if I can solve the difficulty, then I will accept. Li Jun smiled and said mysteriously, The king of thunder whales also said that as long as Big Brother Ting agrees, it will prepare a gift. Chapter 301. Gift. Ting Qingshan looked at the enormous demonic beast in the sea with great interest. Yes, this king of thunder whales is the king of its tribe and has lived for an unknown number of years. It probably has some treasures. Ask it what gift it wants. Li Jun blinked her eyes. Big Brother Ting means that we accept the king of thunder whales' offer? We accept. Ting Qingshan rubbed his chin and smiled. Let's head to the northern sea continent and drift along the way. Aside from cultivating, we also need to find something interesting to do. A mysterious island in the northwest direction? I am somewhat interested now. The king of thunder whales even wants to give gifts, why not? Li Jun also smiled. She immediately turned her head and grabbed the railing at the bow of the ship, letting out roars. Ho! The enormous king of thunder whales let out a heaven-shaking roar of joy. Immediately, all the thunder whales in the surrounding waters let out excited roars. Each and every one of them was very excited, as if they had found a mate. When Ting Qingshan saw this scene, a trace of doubt arose in his heart. Something's wrong. Isn't it just going to an island to help them do something? Why are they so excited? Ting Qingshan realized that this matter wasn't ordinary. Ho ho! Li Jun and the king of thunder whales conversed. Big brother Ting. Li Jun turned her head and looked at Ting Qingshan. The king of thunder whales said that it didn't prepare a gift in advance. Let's hurry and it will send its subordinates to fetch the gift. It will probably deliver the gift halfway through the journey. Ting Qingshan nodded. Not preparing anything in advance was within Ting Qingshan's expectations. The king of thunder whales wants us to first use a rope to tie the dorsal fin of a thunder whale so that it can drag our tungsten wood vessel. Li Jun said. Ting Qingshan immediately moved the iron chain that was connected to the iron anchor from the bow of the ship. At the same time, he separated the iron chain from the anchor. Soon after, he carried the large bundle of iron chain and jumped from the tungsten wood vessel into the sea. Roar, following the command of the king of thunder whales. Immediately, a thunder whale approached Ting Qingshan. Ting Qingshan stepped on the water surface twice and jumped onto the back of this thunder whale. This thunder whale's back is really wide. It's almost as wide as a boat. It was just too slippery. If an ordinary person were to stand on it, they would slip if they were not careful. Ting Qingshan quickly tied the iron chain to the dorsal fin of the thunder whale. He even tightened the chain to prevent it from slipping. With a stomp, Ting Qingshan leaped nearly 20 zhang away from the thunder whale's back and landed on the tungsten wood vessel. Roar, the enormous body of the king of thunder whales also swam towards the tungsten wood vessel. Its pair of huge golden eyes looked at Ting Qingshan with kindness and excitement. It roared several times. The large number of thunder whales surrounding the tungsten wood vessel immediately moved. Voila! The thunder whales all flung their tail fins, creating a large splash as they dived into the sea. In just a moment, only 30 or so thunder whales were left in the surroundings. The other thunder whales had all left. Big brother Ting. Li Jun smiled and said, "This king of thunder whales made the thunder whales return to their nest. Now, it is still discussing with the thunder whales about going to the island." "Right, what is the name of the island we are going to?" Ting Qingshan asked. Li Jun hesitated for a moment before saying, "According to their language of beasts, it should be called Iron Leaf Island." Iron Leaf Island? Ting Qingshan was also curious about the mysterious island. Following the king of thunder whales' roar, the thunder whale that was dragging Ting Qingshan's tungsten wood vessel began to swim towards the northwest. As it swam, Ting Qingshan realized that the thunder whale's speed was much faster than the tungsten wood vessel's. The sails, which originally produced power, were now resisting. "I'll lower the sails." Ting Qingshan hurriedly lowered the 2 sails. At this time, Ting Qingshan also realized that the king of thunder whales had already swam to the side of the tungsten wood vessel. Its huge golden eyes were staring at Ting Qingshan as it let out deep roars. Ting Qingshan and the king of thunder whales didn't understand each other's language, so they could only rely on Li Jun. "Big brother Ting," this king of thunder whales said, "it is very grateful that you agreed to its request. It also said that you are a true warrior." Li Jun covered her mouth as she laughed. Ting Qingshan curled his lips and smiled. "I already said that this king of thunder whales isn't stupid. It even knows how to flatter. Ask it, why are we going to Iron Leaf Island?" Li Jun hastily turned her head and communicated with the king of thunder whales. After a moment, Li Jun said, "Big brother Ting, this king of thunder whales said that this matter is not difficult. However, because they are on an island and thunder whales are more suited to the sea, they are unable to go ashore. Once they go ashore, they can only be bullied by land or flying demonic beasts. It also said that if Big Brother Ting were to do it, Ting Qingshan would not be able to do it. That'll be easy. Demonic beasts? Ting Qingshan frowned. Things aren't that simple. The king of thunder whales also let out a low roar. Li Jun continued, in the center of the Iron Leaf Island, there is a huge tree. This tree was named the Iron Leaf Fruit Tree by the Thunder Whale clan. The iron leaf fruit that this iron leaf fruit tree bears is very important to the Thunder Whale clan. The reason it wanted Big Brother Ting to go was to pick the iron leaf fruit. The iron leaf fruit was not only useful to the Thunder Whale clan, it was also useful for other demonic beasts. Therefore, picking the iron leaf fruit is more difficult. Iron leaf fruit? Ting Qingshan was a little surprised. Ask the king of thunder whales if humans can eat that fruit. If there are a lot of them, we can also try to. Li Jun's eyes also lit up as she turned to ask the king of thunder whales. In the middle of the ocean, under the leadership of the king of thunder whales, over 30 thunder whales protected the tungsten wood vessel as it advanced northwest. We can't eat it. Li Jun turned her head and smiled bitterly at Ting Qingshan. The king of thunder whales said that the iron leaf fruit is very hard, like steel. Only powerful demonic beasts can chew and eat it. If we eat it, I'm afraid, like steel. Ting Qingshan was stunned. A fruit like steel? Demonic beasts would fight to eat it? There were indeed all sorts of strange things in this boundless world. Under the thunder whale's toe, the tungsten wood vessel broke through the waves and advanced rapidly. Late at night of the second day. Ho-hoo, the cold night wind blew. Ting Qingshan was practicing the 3 postures on the deck while Li Jun had already entered the cabin to rest. The 30 thunder whales also stopped in the middle of the ocean and began to rest while floating on the surface of the ocean. Although they were demonic beasts, they couldn't not rest forever. Roar! Suddenly, a loud roar sounded. Ting Qingshan couldn't help but stop and look at the surface of the ocean. He saw that the king of thunder whales was also approaching the tungsten wood vessel. Little June, Ting Qingshan knocked on the cabin door twice. Soon, the cabin door opened and Li Jun walked out with her long hair draped over her shoulders. The left side of her face was slightly red from the pillow pressing on it. It was obvious that she had slept very soundly. Big Brother Ting, when I heard that roar, I immediately woke up. What does the king of thunder whales want to do? Ting Qingshan was puzzled. On the first night, the king of thunder whales had been resting and hadn't disturbed them. Why did it do this on the second night? Even if it was ordering its subordinates, it didn't have to be so loud. Roar! The king of thunder whales stared at the tungsten wood vessel with its huge golden eyes. Li Jun's face revealed a joyful expression. Big Brother Ting, the king of thunder whales said that its subordinates had just delivered the gift, and it wants us to receive it. Hearing this, Ting Qingshan also looked curiously at the king of thunder whales in the ocean. Phew! The king of thunder whales opened its mouth, and a stream of air shot towards the tungsten wood vessel. With a glance, Ting Qingshan clearly saw a green pearl within the stream of air. He immediately leaped up and grabbed the green pearl with his hand. Bang! Ting Qingshan fell back onto the deck of the tungsten wood vessel. What kind of pearl is this? Ting Qingshan carefully examined it. This jewel was about the size of a pigeon's egg. Its entire body was emerald green, and it was so green that it could move one's soul. When Ting Qingshan touched the jewel, he seemed to feel that this jewel contained a powerful and mysterious power. Roar, roar! Li Jun, who was at the side, conversed with the king of thunder whales. Big Brother Ting, the king of thunder whales said, "This pearl is a treasure of the ocean." This pearl was a treasure of the ocean. After breaking it and drinking it, it could save one's life. Apart from this, as long as this pearl is worn on one's body, water will not be able to approach within a radius of 5 zhang. It has the ability to repel water," Li Jun said excitedly. Ting Qingshan looked at this green pearl. Since it could save one's life and repel water, it was indeed not bad. He handed it over to Li Jun and said, "Little Jun, keep this green water-repelling pearl with you. It will prevent you from falling into the sea if you encounter danger. In the sea, there is this water-repelling pearl. At least you won't drown." Drown? Li Jun didn't refuse and happily took it. "Little Jun," Ting Qingshan asked curiously, "what's with the language of beasts? Why do I feel that you seem to understand the languages of many demonic beasts? Could it be that you have learned so much in just half a year?" Li Jun purposely smiled mysteriously. "Big brother Ting, you are wrong. It is not easy to form a language. For example, some demonic beasts are very rare. In the entire world, there are only 2 or 3 of them. These 2 or 3 might not even meet each other. You're saying that they can form a special language of beasts?" Ting Qingshan suddenly understood. Although there are a few types of the languages of beasts, it is not as complicated as Big Brother Ting thinks. Li Jun smiled and said, "For example, the languages of wolf-type demonic beasts and leopard-type demonic beasts are similar. There are also some special demonic beasts whose languages are not special. Therefore, it is enough to understand a few main languages of beasts. As for some remote languages of beasts, you need to use your heart to experience and comprehend it. Learning the language of beasts depends on talent. Even if it is a remote language of beasts, I can understand 80 to 90% of it after spending 3 to 5 months with this type of demonic beast." Li Jun's words contained a sense of confidence. Her confidence was not arrogance, but her ability in the language of beasts. The king of beasts only accepted 2 disciples, but her achievements in half a year were greater than senior Marshal Brother Wan's over 10 years. Even the heavenly god palace focused on nurturing Li Jun. "Little Jun, you left without permission this time. If a genius in the language of beasts like you disappeared, the heavenly god palace would probably look for you everywhere," Ting Qingshan said with a smile. "Big brother Ting, you are making fun of me again." Li Jun lowered her head and looked at the green pearl in her hand. When she thought that this was a gift from Ting Qingshan, she felt very happy. Suddenly, she thought of something and said, "Big brother Ting, if you grind this green pearl and eat it, it can save a person's life. Then, although the iron leaf fruit of the Iron Leaf Island is as hard as steel, if you grind it and eat it, will it have a special effect?" Chapter 302. Grind the iron leaf fruit and eat it? Ting Qingshan pondered and smiled. Maybe it really has a special effect. However, I won't do that. At Ting Qingshan's level, the effects of external objects were almost negligible. "Little Jun, do you want to try?" Ting Qingshan teased. "I just thought of it by chance. It doesn't seem to work. If we catch some prisoners someday, we can try it out." Li Jun thought and said. After chatting for a while, they entered the cabin to rest. The days on the sea were actually very boring. In the beginning, they might be shocked by the boundless sea, but after a long time, they felt very uncomfortable. Ting Qingshan wholeheartedly cultivated and completely integrated the concept of Earth Element Fist into the Transmutation Unity Law Spear art. As for Li Jun, when she was cultivating, she would watch Ting Qingshan cultivate and interact with the thunder whales. It was quite interesting. They continued onward. Ting Qingshan and the others realized that the further north they went, the fewer inhabited islands there were. When they first set off from Heavenly Rock Island, they would occasionally encounter an inhabited island. However, on the 7th day of traveling with the thunder whales, Ting Qingshan and the others could no longer see any inhabited islands. This place was too far from the coast of the land of the 9 prefectures. On the 7th day of traveling with the thunder whales, late at night, over 30 thunder whales were resting on the surface of the sea, so the tungsten wood vessel naturally stopped as well. At this moment, about 100 zhang under the gloomy sea, Ting Qingshan, who only wore a pair of trousers, was practicing his fist art at the bottom of the sea. Buzz! Buzz! Each of Ting Qingshan's punches contained an extremely fast drilling force, as if a giant electric drill was piercing through the seabed. Xing E5 Elemental Fist, Drilling Fist. Ting Qingshan practiced the same move, drilling fist, at the bottom of the sea. He stood in the three postures and struck out with the drilling fist. Ting Qingshan punched again and again. In just 2 hours, he had punched at least 1,000 times. Each punch contained a force of several tens of thousands of jin. Ting Qingshan cultivated the concept, so there was no need for him to unleash all of his power. Ting Qingshan threw out a punch. His punch spun up and down, outwards and inwards, horizontally and vertically, horizontally and horizontally. The rotation turned into a shape and the rolling turned into a force. It was a terrifying rotational drilling force. If a spirit formation grandmaster were to see this, he would be dumbfounded. This fist technique had long since reached the peak of unfathomable realm. However, Ting Qingshan wanted to surpass the grandmaster level and experience the realm of Tao. Hu! Ting Qingshan withdrew his fist and returned to the three postures. I did take advantage of you. A smile appeared on Ting Qingshan's face as he thought to himself, among the 5 elemental fists, the horizontal fist represents the earth element. Currently, my earth element fist has reached the highest level, and this drilling fist was of the water attribute. Once it was dissolved in the earth, it would grow wood. The horizontal fist was the foundation of the drilling fist. If one's attainment in the horizontal fist was high, it would be easier to practice the drilling fist. Similarly, if one achieves a high level of mastery in the earth element fist, it would be much easier to practice the water element fist. For the past few days, Ting Qingshan would spend 4 hours every night practicing his fist technique at the bottom of the sea. During the process of practicing, Ting Qingshan realized that the concept of the earth element fist was helpful in improving his drilling fist. In his previous life, his teacher, Ting Buolei, taught him that the drilling fist was of the water attribute and dissolved in the earth. It's too difficult to have an epiphany like I did on the Great Prairie. Ting Qingshan was very clear about this. Epiphany can only be obtained by chance. Even if I can't have an epiphany in the sea, it will at least be helpful in comprehending the drilling fist. Practicing the drilling fist on the sea was indeed twice the result with half the effort. It was just like how some Xing-Yi experts would observe the movements of animals when they practiced the 12 forms. Practicing the 5 elemental fists and the water element fist was most suitable in the sea. I can't have an extravagant desire to have an epiphany. However, if I keep my feet firmly on the ground and practice diligently, I will still improve slowly. Ting Qingshan was very confident. Actually, with the help of the earth element fist as a foundation, his drilling fist was slowly improving. On the 9th day of traveling with the school of thunder whales late at night, voila, the gloomy sea water rippled. The 30+ thunder whales and the tungsten wood vessel were still advancing. Normally, the thunder whales would rest at night, but tonight was different. This was because, according to their estimations, they should be able to reach their destination, Iron Leaf Island, tonight. On the tungsten wood vessel, Ting Qingshan held the silver reincarnation spear in his hand and thrusted it forward again and again. Xiao! Xiao! Like the sound of an electric drill, the spear's strike was extremely swift and fierce. Ting Qingshan stood still and executed the 3 postures, but the reincarnation spear in his hand executed the move Toxic Dragon Drill again and again. After cultivating the internal supreme force, Toxic Dragon Drill became Ting Qingshan's strongest offensive move. Especially during the 10 days at sea, Ting Qingshan would often enter the sea to practice the drilling fist. The concept of the drilling fist, and toxic dragon drill were the same. Ting Qingshan's drilling fist was gradually improving, and the power of his strongest move, toxic dragon drill, was also gradually increasing. Ting Qingshan frowned. Because the tungsten wood vessel had stopped, Ting Qingshan walked to the bow of the vessel and looked into the sea. He saw the King of Thunder Whales looking at him with its huge golden eyes and roaring twice. It seemed that the King of Thunder Whales was worried about something and didn't dare to shout loudly. Little June, Ting Qingshan immediately knocked on the cabin door. Soon, Li Jun put on her clothes and ran out. She stood shoulder to shoulder with Ting Qingshan at the bow of the vessel and chatted with the King of Thunder Whales below. After a while, Li Jun turned to look at Ting Qingshan and said with a smile, "Big brother Ting," the King of Thunder Whales said. "Iron Leaf Island is about 3 li away." Ting Qingshan glanced over. Although the Iron Leaf Island wasn't considered a big island, it was only 3 li away. Ting Qingshan could still see the dark island on the horizon. "There's still 3 li. Why did we stop now?" Ting Qingshan frowned. The King of Thunder Whales said that there are submerged reefs in front. There are even reefs that come out of the sea. I'm afraid that our tungsten wood vessel won't be able to go over. Li Jun explained. In the sea, the King of Thunder Whales also let out low roars. Li Jun hastily said, "It also said that once we go to the island and fight with the demonic beasts on the island, if the tungsten wood vessel is at the edge of the island, it is very likely that it will be attacked by the demonic beasts. The tungsten wood vessel will be much safer if it is 3 li away." Ting Qingshan listened and nodded. "Wait a moment." Ting Qingshan's heart stirred. He immediately opened the cabin door and entered the cabin. He then carried out a bundle of fishing nets and closed the door. "Fishing nets," Li Jun said in surprise. "Use the iron leaf fruits." Ting Qingshan smiled. "If there are a lot of those iron leaf fruits, then the fishing nets will be very useful. Let's prepare to disembark." Ting Qingshan looked at the King of Thunder Whales below and said, "Little June, tell it that I will disembark and I will disembark on the island. Ask it to protect you." A smile appeared on Li Jun's face as she listened. Soon after, she communicated with the King of Thunder Whales in the sea and smiled at Ting Qingshan. "Big brother Ting, let's go. Let's disembark." Phew! Phew! Ting Qingshan and Li Jun jumped together and fell into the sea with a plop. However, the seawater around Li Jun's body was forced away by an invisible force. It was the effect of the water-repelling green pearl. Wearing this green pearl is quite useful. Li Jun looked around the seawater curiously. Roar! The huge head of the King of Thunder Whales approached. Li Jun roared at it twice and said with a smile, "Big brother Ting, it has already arranged for a thunder whale to watch over the tungsten wood vessel. The others will go to the edge of the Iron Leaf Island." Immediately, Ting Qingshan and Li Jun mounted the back of a thunder whale. Over 30 thunder whales approached the Iron Leaf Island. "Ask it if there are any powerful demonic beasts on the island. Previously, it said that I would definitely be able to deal with them. It's better to ask it to explain." Ting Qingshan said. "Okay." Li Jun immediately began to talk softly with the King of Thunder Whales. After a while, Li Jun turned her head and said, "Big brother Ting, the King of Thunder Whales said that there are a few demonic beasts on the island. However, there is only one demonic beast of the Golden Dan innate realm, and it is a huge condor. From the King of Thunder Whales' description, I feel that the divine condor should be the golden-eyed divine condor, which is also known as the black gale divine condor." Ting Qingshan suddenly understood and felt even more confident. The black gale divine condor was also known as the golden-eyed divine condor. It could spit out cold air, and its strength was at the same level as the red-eyed snow lion. One is in the sea and the other is in the sky. With the black gale divine condor on the island, the King of Thunder Whales would probably have a hard time getting the fruit. Ting Qingshan smiled. Let alone the black gale divine condor, Even ordinary Hollow-Dan innate realm demonic beasts wouldn't be afraid of the king of thunder whales as long as they are on the shore and not near the sea. Ting Qingshan was full of confidence. Big Brother Ting, the king of thunder whales, also said, "Although the black gale divine condor is often on the island, it isn't there every day. If we are lucky, we won't encounter the divine condor tonight. We can easily drive away some ordinary innate demonic beasts and safely go pick the fruit." Li Jun smiled. Ting Qingshan nodded, "Yes. If we don't have to fight, it is also a good thing." Soon, the 30 or so thunder whales arrived at the seaside of the Iron Leaf Island. Big Brother Ting, the king of thunder whales, said that the iron leaf fruit tree is at the highest point of the entire island. The branches and leaves of the iron leaf fruit tree are as hard and sharp as steel. Moreover, the entire tree is pitch black, and only the fruits are green. You should be able to see it with a glance. Li Jun whispered. Ting Qingshan nodded. However, the area of the island was too big and there were too many trees. It was impossible for Ting Qingshan to see it with a glance. "Big Brother Ting, be careful," Li Jun whispered. The king of thunder whales also stared at Ting Qingshan with its pair of enormous golden eyes. The 30 or so thunder whales all looked at Ting Qingshan with anticipation. Ting Qingshan smiled. He held the reincarnation spear in his hand and carried the fishing net as he strode to the shore. His body then nimbly flashed and disappeared from the thunder whale's line of sight. Ting Qingshan was like a nimble monkey as he advanced on the Iron Leaf Island. After approximately an hour, Ting Qingshan looked at the towering tree in front of him. The tree was as thick as a person's waist. Its entire body was pitch black, and its leaves looked as if they were forged from steel. The fruits hanging on the branches and leaves were especially green, so green that it made one's heart tremble. With a glance, one could tell that the tree in front of them was the iron leaf fruit tree. "That's it." Ting Qingshan revealed a smile. Chapter 303. There were no other plants within 10 zhang of the iron leaf fruit tree. It was barren. Even the plants and trees within 10 zhang were not growing as well as other places. "You really can keep your cool." Ting Qingshan surveyed his surroundings and smiled. He then threw the fish net on his shoulder onto the ground, creating a pring sound that was very ear-piercing in the quiet forest. Ting Qingshan could feel that there were many pairs of eyes staring at him from the bushes in the surrounding forest. As expected of a demonic beast, it is very cautious. Ting Qingshan held the reincarnation spear and jumped onto the branch of the iron leaf fruit tree. Green fruits? Iron leaf fruit? Ting Qingshan looked at the fruits in front of him that seemed to be carved out of jade. A world with abundant spiritual qi can indeed give birth to many strange things. Ting Qingshan stretched out his hand and grabbed a fruit. He exerted force. Snap! As if he was forcefully breaking an iron chain, the iron leaf fruit was pulled down by Ting Qingshan. How was this plucking? It was purely pulling with brute force. Ordinary people might not be able to pluck the iron leaf fruit. Ting Qingshan smiled and held the reincarnation spear in his right hand. His left hand was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water, turning into a shadow and grabbing one iron leaf fruit after another. It was as if plucking the iron leaf fruit was an easy task. Hua, hua, hua. Green fruits that looked like they were carved out of jade fell from the iron leaf fruit tree and into the fish net one by one. The speed at which the fruits were plucked was as if the heavens were raining fruit. Boom! The air shook violently. A black shadow rapidly scuttled out from the bushes 10 zhang away and directly pounced towards Ting Qingshan, who was on the iron leaf fruit tree. That pair of green eyes was even more terrifying. Ting Qingshan, who seemed to be immersed in the joy of plucking fruits, glanced sideways and casually flipped his right hand that had been idle. He imbued his powerful arm strength into it, and the reincarnation spear drew an exquisite line. Xiao! A silver light flashed. Aolo! A mournful scream rang out. The silver reincarnation spear had pierced through the chest and abdomen of a demonic beast with silver-gray fur. Fresh blood flowed continuously. This demonic beast's foreclaws were a strange blood-red color, and its body was so huge that it was comparable to an ordinary tiger. Such a demonic beast was pierced by the reincarnation spear, but its pair of green eyes still stared crazily at Ting Qingshan. Its 4 claws were still waving and struggling, but it couldn't break free at all. Blood Shadow Wolf? Ting Qingshan looked down at the demonic beast, and the spear in his right hand moved. Bang! The reincarnation spear spun. A strong wave of internal supreme force passed through the reincarnation spear and exploded in the chest and abdomen of the demonic beast Blood Shadow Wolf, causing its internal organs to completely shatter. The Blood Shadow Wolf only let out a low howl before it stopped making any more sounds. Ting Qingshan shook his long spear, causing the Blood Shadow Wolf to slide off the spear shaft and fly downwards. With a pring, the corpse of the Blood Shadow Wolf fell about 5 zhang away from the trunk of the iron leaf fruit tree. Fresh blood dyed the dried ground red. Whoosh! Ting Qingshan also leaped down from the tree branch and landed on the ground. He looked at the surroundings from afar. With his night vision, he could clearly see a few land demonic beasts hiding everywhere. Ting Qingshan raised his head and saw a few bird-type demonic beasts perched on some trees in the distance. Each and every one of them glared like a tiger watching its prey. The reincarnation spear in Ting Qingshan's hand pointed at the surrounding demonic beasts and the bird-type demonic beasts on the trees. If you guys don't scram further away. Ting Qingshan then pointed the tip of the reincarnation spear at the corpse of the Blood Shadow Wolf. You guys will end up like this. The demonic beasts didn't understand Ting Qingshan's words. However, Ting Qingshan pointed at them first, then pointed at the Blood Shadow Wolf. These demonic beasts were all very intelligent and understood. Although they were surprised that this human could discover them, this human could easily kill the emptiness Dan innate demonic beast Blood Shadow Wolf with one spear strike. This already proved Ting Qingshan's strength. It definitely far surpassed the emptiness Dan innate realm. This iron leaf fruit was very important to the Thunder Whale clan, but it wasn't necessarily so for the other demonic beasts. Screech, Aolo, Ga. One by one, the demonic beasts quickly left, fearing that this human would pursue and kill them. In a mere moment, all the demonic beasts in the surrounding bushes left, leaving only a few bird-type demonic beasts on the tall trees in the distance. You guys are ruthless. You guys can all fly, so I really can't catch you guys. Ting Qingshan grinned and no longer paid attention to the group of bird-type demonic beasts. Leaping onto the branch of the green leaf fruit tree, Ting Qingshan continued to pluck the fruit. Hua, hua, hua. The fruits fell unceasingly, causing the bird-type demonic beasts on the distant trees to become anxious. Screech, screech, those demonic beasts all emitted angry cries, but they didn't dare to provoke Ting Qingshan. At the seaside of the Iron Leaf Island, those demonic beasts are very angry. Li Jun heard the cries of the birds and easily understood what they meant. She couldn't help but feel excited. It seems that those demonic beasts aren't Big Brother Ting's match. I reckon that the Black Gale Divine Condor isn't on the island. The King of Thunder Whales at the side asked Li Jun, and Li Jun also told the King of Thunder Whales what she could hear. Ho! The King of Thunder Whales excitedly roared. One by one, the Thunder Whales all roared excitedly. They all understood that in a while, they would be able to bring back a large pile of iron leaf fruit. Suddenly, screech, a resounding and angry cry resounded through the horizon. After the originally excited King of Thunder Whales heard it, it immediately let out a low roar. Hearing its low roar, Li Jun's complexion changed. What? It's the Black Gale Divine Condor? The iron leaf fruit tree. This iron leaf fruit tree would bear fruit once a year. Once it matured, if it wasn't plucked, all the fruits would fall to the ground after a month. However, the iron leaf fruit was as hard as steel, and it was very difficult to rot. Even if it was left there for 2 or 3 years, the iron leaf fruit would still be fine. The day Ting Qingshan went out to sea was the first day of the 7th month. It just so happened to be the transition between summer and autumn, and it was precisely the season when the iron leaf fruit tree bore fruit. One by one, the iron leaf fruits fell to the ground and collided with each other, emitting clang-clang sounds of metal striking each other. In just a short while, more than half of the iron leaf fruit tree had already been plucked by Ting Qingshan. It could only be said that this Ting Qingshan's plucking speed was too fast. Screech, a resounding and sharp bird cry sounded. Tsk, I thought that since you weren't on the island, I wouldn't have to fight a serious battle. Forget it, let's move around a bit. Since Ting Qingshan knew that the other party was the Black Gale Divine Condor, Ting Qingshan was completely confident. Whoosh! A piercingly cold gale blew from the sky, causing many plants to lower their heads. Fortunately, the iron leaf fruits were like solid iron balls. Only an extremely small number of them were blown and rolled. The others that were trapped in the fishing net simply couldn't roll at all. Black Gale Divine Condor. Its entire body is snow white, its crown is gold, and its eyes are also gold. Ting Qingshan looked at the Black Gale Divine Condor perched on the branch of the big tree and compared it with the description in the book. Its body is big enough, comparable to Big Black and Big White. The Black Gale Divine Condor's sharp eyes stared at Ting Qingshan below, filled with killing intent. This iron leaf island was its territory. This iron leaf fruit tree was its food. Although it would occasionally let the other demonic beasts on the island have a taste, it monopolized most of the fruit. This fruit was useless to it, who was already at the Golden Daninate realm, but it liked to eat it. Whoosh! The Black Gale Divine Condor suddenly shot out from the tree branch, like a sharp arrow shooting towards Ting Qingshan below. Ting Qingshan coldly snorted. He didn't dodge and stood firmly on the spot, holding the reincarnation spear in his hand. At the moment when the Black Gale Divine Condor's claws attacked, Ting Qingshan squinted his eyes and the reincarnation spear in his hand twisted and flicked. Like a silver dragon, it attacked the Black Gale Divine Condor. Clang! The sharp claws collided with the tip of the spear. It was like the sound of steel colliding. Visible shockwaves spread out, and the surrounding plants were directly crushed into pieces. Many big trees fell with a loud rumble, smashing onto the ground. Only the trunk of the iron leaf fruit tree was left with a shallow wound. As if sensing that Ting Qingshan wasn't easy to deal with, the Black Gale Divine Condor immediately ascended higher. Humph! Ting Qingshan leaped up, reaching a height of 20 zhang. A human dared to fight with a bird-type demonic beast in midair? Was he courting death? The Black Gale Divine Condor immediately let out a resounding cry and charged towards Ting Qingshan. Its pair of golden eyes were filled with a cold and crazy killing intent. A series of colliding sounds could be heard. Clang! 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 Every time they clashed, it would cause a violent shockwave. The surrounding trees and plants were all swept clean. Even the leaves of the iron leaf fruit tree floated down. Some of the thin branches were even broken, and a few iron leaf fruits fell. The Black Gale Divine Condor's series of attacks simply didn't injure Ting Qingshan in the slightest. Ting Qingshan's transmutation unity law defensive spear art had long since reached an extremely frightening height. This is the moment. Ting Qingshan had been waiting for this moment to lure the Black Gale Divine Condor while he was in mid-air. The Black Gale Divine Condor's frenzied attacks were the easiest to reveal a sliver of an opening in this state. After all, a frenzied attack would weaken one's defense. Purring! When the Black Gale Divine Condor was shaken by Ting Qingshan's spear strike, Ting Qingshan's gaze instantly locked onto the Black Gale Divine Condor's neck. Ting Qingshan had finally used a killing move. Whoosh! The transmutation unity law spear art instantly changed to the toxic dragon drill. A silver lightning lit up. Screech, a resounding and sharp cry that contained a trace of fear resounded. The black gale divine condor strove to flap its wings. The penetrating power of a fist, saber, or spear tip with the strength of 1,200,000 gene was different. The spear tip only had one point, but its penetrating power was naturally astonishing. Moreover, this 1,200,000 gene wasn't brute force, but a bizarre drilling force that erupted in an instant. The space seemed to have been drilled through. The penetrating power reached a frightening value. Pooh! Ting Qingshan's reincarnation spear instantly pierced through the layers of the black gale divine condor's steel-like feathers, piercing through the skin, muscles, and bones. The black gale divine condor's strong defense on the surface was actually the layers of feathers. After Ting Qingshan pierced through the layers of feathers, the black gale divine condor was naturally unable to resist. The silver reincarnation spear directly pierced through the black gale divine condor's left wing. Screech, the black gale divine condor let out a painful cry. At the same time, its sharp beak spat out a stream of black cold air. Phew! A stream of black cold air instantly enveloped Ting Qingshan. I've already tasted this move before. Ting Qingshan concealed his internal supreme force, and his innate true origin instantly formed a light shield. In an instant, Ting Qingshan was frozen into an ice sculpture. Only now did the black gale divine condor's golden eyes reveal a trace of pleasure from revenge. However, this ice sculpture could move. Pung! The reincarnation spear suddenly spun, and the black gale divine condor let out a mournful cry. A hole the size of a human's head was blown up in its left wing, and fresh blood splattered everywhere. Screech, the black gale divine condor struggled to stay in the air. The layer of ice on the surface of Ting Qingshan's body completely cracked open. Soon after, he raised his head and looked at the miserable black gale divine condor above him. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind. This black gale divine condor is a golden Dan innate demonic beast. If I subdue it, I'll have to focus on dealing with dangerous situations. Besides, with a divine condor in the sky, there will definitely be less trouble on the way. 4 chapters completed. Today's 3rd chapter is 1 minute late. Tomato wanted to cry but no tears came out. He was indeed very tired from writing and did not make it in time. But since it was late, they would definitely make up for it. Tomato would definitely keep his promise. That was why there were 4 more chapters tomorrow. Chapter 304. Drifting on the sea with a black gale divine condor following him was indeed very convenient. In the mountain forest, the black gale divine condor, whose left wing was injured, struggled to maintain its balance in the air. After all, it was a golden Dan innate demonic beast with a huge body. Even if there was a hole in its left wing, it was still able to fly. It looked at the human below in astonishment. He actually didn't die after being hit by its cold air? This was too inconceivable. It didn't want to believe it. Who? The angry black gale divine condor opened its mouth, and another black mist enveloped Ting Qingshan. It's useless. Ting Qingshan stood at his original position. With a "whoo" sound, a fiery red light enveloped his entire body. Ting Qingshan was like a fire god. The extreme low temperature permeated through the light cover and spread to Ting Qingshan's entire body. Even the light cover was frozen to the point of cracking. Ting Qingshan turned into an ice sculpture. This ice sculpture revealed a smiling expression, and the ice on its face immediately cracked. Black gale divine condor, this move of yours is useless against me. Ting Qingshan raised his head and glanced at the black gale divine condor. The black gale divine condor flapped its wings angrily in the air. Its injured left wing had already stopped bleeding, and the wound was completely frozen. A series of angry cries resounded through the sky. Hey! Ting Qingshan raised his head and looked at the black gale divine condor in the sky. He laughed and shouted, "It's useless no matter how angry you are. I've already plucked all of these iron leaf fruits." As he spoke, he pointed at the iron leaf fruit tree. At this moment, the black Gale Divine Condor, who had already stopped on a branch high up on a large tree, angrily glared at Ting Qingshan with its golden eyes and emitted low cries. Ting Qingshan jumped onto the iron leaf fruit tree again. This time, Ting Qingshan hung the reincarnation spear behind his waist and used both hands to pluck the iron leaf fruit. The beautiful and moving iron leaf fruits fell from the tree one by one and smashed into the fishing net. The black Gale Divine Condor could only watch as Ting Qingshan plucked the fruits. Not long after, the iron leaf fruit tree no longer had any iron leaf fruit. All of this made the black Gale Divine Condor's eyes turn red. "That's a lot." Ting Qingshan picked up the scattered iron leaf fruits on the ground and placed them into the fishing net. Then, he rolled the net into a pile of iron leaf fruits and carried it on his shoulder. It feels like it weighs a few thousand jin. There are at least a few hundred of them." Carrying the big fish net, Ting Qingshan held the reincarnation spear and started to leave. Screech, screech, sharp and resounding bird cries resounded through the horizon. The black Gale Divine Condor screeched crazily as it circled in the sky. However, as it watched Ting Qingshan rapidly advance through the forest, it did not dare to provoke Ting Qingshan. Li Jun was quietly waiting at the seaside of Iron Leaf Island. Beside her, over 30 thunder whales and the king of thunder whales were also waiting expectantly. Voila! The waves crashed into the beach again, and then retreated. Li Jun's eyes suddenly saw a blurry figure in the distance. After taking a closer look, a smile appeared on her face as she shouted excitedly, "Big Brother Ting! Big Brother Ting!" The figure in the distance also let out a hearty laugh. "Ha ha, little June, I took all the fruits of the iron leaf fruit tree in one go." While the laughter was still echoing, Ting Qingshan quickly walked to the beach and left a deep imprint on the sand with each step he took. Ting Qingshan casually threw the fishing net to the side. Purring! It made a sound. With the thunder whales' enormous bodies, it was impossible for them to stay by the beach. For example, the king of thunder whales' body was much larger than the tungsten wood vessel. Even with such a large body, it was still 10 zhang away. After Ting Qingshan threw the fishing net, he sat on it. "Little June, tell it that the iron leaf fruits have been plucked." Ting Qingshan said with a smile, "However, we will keep 30% and give the king of thunder whales and the others 70%. From Ting Qingshan's point of view, the iron leaf fruits were valued by so many demonic beasts. Moreover, the entire Iron Leaf Island could give birth to more than 10 demonic beasts, which meant that the island should be located in a place with abundant spiritual qi. On such an island, there was only one iron leaf fruit tree. This iron leaf fruit was probably not ordinary. Although he still didn't understand the use of the iron leaf fruit, it was better to keep some for himself. When the king of thunder whales saw the large amount of iron leaf fruits under Ting Qingshan's butt, it couldn't help but let out an excited roar. The thunder whales at the side also roared excitedly. Li Jun immediately spoke to the king of thunder whales and told Ting Qingshan's intentions. The king of thunder whales looked at Ting Qingshan with dissatisfaction in its eyes and let out a deep roar. "Big Brother Ting, the king of thunder whales said that we don't need the iron leaf fruit. Moreover, we have received its benefit, the water-repelling green pearl. It wants us to give all the iron leaf fruits to them." Li Jun looked towards Ting Qingshan. Ting Qingshan's face darkened. He pulled Li Jun to his side and stared at the king of thunder whales. "Little Jun, tell it that one water-repelling green pearl is nothing. I came here from thousands of miles away, so I should take some of the iron leaf fruit. Tell me directly. Otherwise, they can forget about getting a single fruit." This matter had been under the control of the king of thunder whales from beginning to end. This made Ting Qingshan very unhappy. A single green pearl was enough to make a golden Dan innate expert busy? If it was too arrogant, worst comes to worst, they would just break up. With the reincarnation spear in hand, Ting Qingshan also had the confidence to kill the king of thunder whales. As for the tungsten wood vessel, only Li Jun was on the island. If the tungsten wood vessel was destroyed, then so be it. At worst, he could just use the materials on the Iron Leaf Island to build a simple boat. Ting Qingshan grabbed the fishing net and pulled little June along as they walked towards the shore. Roar, roar, Li Jun retreated to the shore and continuously roared towards the king of thunder whales. Bang! Ting Qingshan threw the fishing net a little further away. With the reincarnation spear in hand, he immediately flew to the shore and stared at the king of thunder whales. Ting Qingshan's meaning was very clear. King of thunder whales, don't bully me too much. Otherwise, let's have a competition? The king of thunder whales looked at Ting Qingshan and seemed to recall the battle at the bottom of the sea. It was beaten by Ting Qingshan and fled with its tail between its legs. At this moment, Ting Qingshan was still using the reincarnation spear. Roar, the king of thunder whales finally roared. Big brother Ting, it agreed. It said that 70% of the fruits is enough. Give us 30%. Li Jun hastily said. Ting Qingshan smiled and said, this king of thunder whales is relying on the fact that it can threaten you and the tungsten wood vessel. That's why it dares to be so arrogant with me. Now that we're on the shore, if you stay far away, it won't dare to be too arrogant. Ting Qingshan wasn't the least bit surprised. Yes. Li Jun also smiled and nodded. Actually, without us, with the Black Gale Divine Condor and the other demonic beasts on the island, this king of thunder whales probably wouldn't have been able to get so many fruit. Being able to get so many now is already not bad. At this moment, Big Brother Ting, look. That's the Black Gale Divine Condor up there, right? Li Jun raised her head and pointed towards the sky. Ting Qingshan raised his head and looked. In the dark sky, the pair of golden eyes were very obvious. The enormous body spiraled high in the sky and the pair of golden eyes stared fixedly at Ting Qingshan. Little June, do you think we have a way to subdue this Black Gale Divine Condor? Ting Qingshan asked. Subdue? Li Jun was startled when she heard this. Ting Qingshan hastily nodded. Yes, subdue. Once this Black Gale Divine Condor is subdued. In the future, if you encounter something like the School of Thunder Whales, you can directly hide high in the sky on the back of the Black Gale Divine Condor. I won't have any misgivings. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been forced to come here by this School of Thunder Whales. Also, weren't the black and white fierce wind divine condors from the god of heaven mountain subdued? Ting Qingshan looked at Li Jun. Li Jun frowned and said, I'm not sure. Let's try it. Immediately, Li Jun raised her head and let out a loud and clear cry. Fortunately, she had also eaten a spiritual treasure and reached the peak of the post-liminary realm. This cry was also very loud and clear. The golden eyes of the Black Gale Divine Condor spiraling high in the sky flashed with a trace of surprise and immediately let out a cry. The two communicated for a moment. Screech, the golden-eyed Divine Condor let out a resounding and angry cry. It even flapped its wings, causing a large amount of violent wind to blow. Originally, the wound on its left wing was already covered with a layer of ice. Although its agility and speed had decreased sharply, it still had no problem blowing a violent wind. What's wrong? Ting Qingshan also felt that something was wrong. Li Jun said helplessly, just now I lured it by saying that I would bring it to roam the North Sea. It said that it knew more about the North Sea than I did. I said that I could let it taste human delicacies and let it eat some iron leaf fruit. Yes, iron leaf fruit. Ting Qingshan actually agreed with this lure. Now, there are no more iron leaf fruits on that tree. They are all with me. It's useless. Li Jun shook her head and said, it said that it could eat the iron leaf fruits next year. However, it can't become a human's underling and listen to their orders. Ting Qingshan raised his head, and the black gale divine condor in the sky also lowered its head to look at Ting Qingshan. Although they were 50 to 60 zhang apart, the two of them could see each other's eyes. It's really arrogant. Ting Qingshan's heart stirred and he said with a smile, "Little June, didn't it say that it could eat the iron leaf fruits next year? I think that the iron leaf fruits are very important to it. Just tell it, your big brother has a fiery temper. If you provoke me, I will chop down the iron leaf fruit tree. Little June, just make me sound worse. Just tell it nicely. In any case, it will be coming with us in the future. It will also take care of you. I don't need it." One played the bad cop, while the other played the good cop. Hearing this, Li Jun smiled. This method might be effective. Let's see how important the iron leaf fruit tree is in its heart. Once the fruit tree is destroyed, it will really be impossible for it to bear fruit again. She immediately raised her head towards the black gale divine condor in the sky and emitted a series of cries. After a while, screech screech, the black gale divine condor also emitted a series of cries, seeming to be very proud of itself. Hearing this, Li Jun's face fell. "What's wrong?" Ting Qingshan asked puzzledly. "This method didn't work." Li Jun smiled bitterly as she looked at Ting Qingshan and said, "Big brother Ting, the black gale divine condor said, the fruits of the iron leaf fruit tree, it only liked to eat them. However, it would not increase its strength. Since it couldn't eat it, no matter how unwilling it was, it couldn't lower its head and follow us. Moreover, it also said that the ones who truly needed and valued the iron leaf fruit tree the most were the thunder whales. If we cut down the iron leaf fruit tree, the group of thunder whales might attack us crazily." Ting Qingshan was puzzled. Ting Qingshan turned his head to look at the school of thunder whales in the distance. What the black gale divine condor had said was probably true. Otherwise, why would the entire group of thunder whales be so excited when he agreed to come and pick the iron leaf fruit? "Looks like I'm going to fail." Ting Qingshan had a headache. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.